Hello and welcome back to Blood and Ashes. This is episode 34. I am your host Mo, and I'm joined as always by my sharply honed friends Jody.
Boka!
And Billy.
Wubba-lubba-dub-dub.
Wait, is everyone drunk?
Jody, why don't you explain to our listeners who the Booker are?
The Boka is what we fondly refer to our rugby team, the national rugby team, the Springboks, which is also our national animal. And we played rugby yesterday, and we kicked some Scottish butt.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, Scotland listeners.
Yeah, doesn't matter. We won. That's the only thing that's important. And Ireland beat the All Blacks.
Yeah. And England beat Australia.
And England beat Australia. So yeah, we've spoken about cricket on the show. I'm sure I've tweeted about it for certain. Now rugby is up on the cards. All right, go do your rugby research, people.
I guess our US listeners don't really have much insight into our Commonwealth sporting and recreation activities. Cricket and rugby features heavily in our South African heritage, but also where we live now, Billy and I, in Australia. Less so in Spain, but Joe, you're actually an active cricket player in Spain. So
yeah, there's lots of expats here, mostly English people that live on the Costa del Sol of Spain. Massive expat community, so we play cricket.
Look, if they're confused about rugby and cricket, just imagine how confused they're going to be when we start talking about two-up.
Jody already looks confused.
I got a two-up game and everything. I got the coins and the little piece of wood and everything. I've never played it because it makes no sense. But
yes,
it's kind of like Aussie rules football. What the hell is happening there is anyone's guess.
That makes total sense to me now.
You liar.
I live in Victoria, man. It's the number one sport over here. You have to know what's happening in that or you're on the out.
Yes, you will be ostracized. Speaking of being ostracized, are you guys ready to carry this podcast on your shoulders while I
ready to
take a step back and get ostracized?
My working arm has been working out. I'm ready to carry.
For listeners who are just jumping in here, we've changed the format up a little bit. Jody and Billy will handle all the chapter summaries and do their best to fend off my probing questions as they go through them. But before we do that, there's one thing that we have to take care of, and that's take a little trip.
Billy's favorite thing.
Yeah, down Billy's favorite memory lane, callbacks. Okay, so as is becoming custom now, we'll start the callbacks with some listener submissions. We have a listener who's writing in for the first time called Jonna, and they write in to say that, or to remind us about the dynamic between Thom and Nynaeve. Now, we've spoken about this a little bit. Last episode, we spoke about how Nynaeve often turns to, sort of trying to force people down a certain route out of, habit because of how young she is and more so how young she even appears. We spoke briefly about why she's tugging a braid because in the past it was a way of her sort of like drawing attention to the fact that she is a woman and she needs to be taken seriously. And Jonna reminds us that in book 1, when we meet Thom, he refers to Nynaeve the first time as a girl child chasing him from the inn. And later when Rand or Matt or someone says, "Oh, you mean our wisdom?" he goes, "That slip of a girl." So you know how Thom interacted with Nynaeve inside the inn. So of course her back is already up, right? Like like we've established now multiple times, she's never seen the wonderful stuff that Thom has done, taking out a fade to save the boys and all that stuff. All she's seen is this condescending old glee man in Emansfield.
Hold on now. You said her back is up. Isn't her back always up? Like, does her back ever go down?
No, it was always up. But I mean, specifically in relation to Thom, because we have other insights and we know that Thom he's on a level, right? He's a good guy.
He's a legend.
But Nynaeve immediately tries to bully him. And that's why. Another submission from a listener comes from Jason Hall, who writes in to elaborate a little bit on the questions we had about healing, gentling, and stilling. Remember how we said only men can heal a stilling back to full power?
Mm.
But the specific dynamic is that you need someone from the opposite gender to heal you. So Nynaeve does heal Logain back to full power,
Mm-hmm.
but Dharma Flynn would have to heal Swan or Leanne to get them back to full power.
Mm-hmm.
So Dharma is good at healing stilled women, and Nynaeve is good at healing gentled men. So it wasn't just that guys are better at it, it has to be the opposite gender to do it. And that's how that dynamic works, which is a minor detail, but that's what we thrive on, or at least I do. Okay, then, man, Richard Jackson. We need to come up with some kind of nickname for him, because like the mailman or something, because he always delivers. He's constantly coming up with answers to a lot of the questions that we ask ourselves. One being, we asked, where has Rand heard of Guitarra Moroso before? Because the name rings a bell for him. Swan mentions her name in their meeting in Feldara.
Uh-huh.
He also writes in to say that not only do Rand's tattoos shimmer in the light, they also actually constantly hurt, which we find out when the girls bond Rand later in the story. They don't understand how he can put up with that amount of pain from his wound and from his tattoos. The Aes Sedai in Seanchan that made the first Adam, her name was not Deanna or whatever I said in the last episode, it was Diane, and she was a Seanchan Aes Sedai. She did not go over with Luther Paindra. She was one of the wild Aes Sedai on that side that never swore the three oaths, didn't know about the White Tower, and so was using the power as a weapon. And they were, busy fighting amongst themselves and the other natives in Seanchan.
But was she a remnant of like the Aes Sedai from pre-breaking?
Yes.
Did she call herself Aes Sedai?
They call themselves Aes Sedai. Yes,
okay.
They call themselves Aes Sedai, but had no idea about the White Tower and obviously the Earth Rod and all that sort of stuff. They were just stranded on that side of the Aryth Ocean after the breaking. Richard also briefly mentions where Moiraine sees all her possible futures. Remember, we said it's not how the Aelfin would answer a question showing her all these things. It is from a ter'angreal that Moiraine goes into in Rhuidean, but it is not the glass columns. There's another ter'angreal and another listener, a new contributor, Mick Halverson, who wrote in last episode as well. He elaborated on this a little bit, and he says, in Rhuidean, there is another ter'angreal similar to the archers that the novices go through to become accepted, in which they are shown multiple futures based on all the different decisions and things they make. But these aren't three archers; they are three rings that are standing up vertically, all joined in the middle. So I don't know how to paint this picture, but you can imagine. So they walk through
perfectly painted. I've got it in my brain. All right.
And in these, Aviendha sees herself falling in love and sleeping with Rand and all that sort of stuff, and immediately feels like that would incur tow towards Elayne. Like, she would have dishonored her, her friend. Which is why after she comes back from Rhuidean, she's shooting daggers at Rand, not just because he is the Kara Khan and the one destined to break the clans, but he is the one that is going to make her incur tow against Elayne if she doesn't watch herself, which is why she's so dead set on reminding Rand the whole time about Elayne. It's Elayne you want Elayne, you want Elayne. And Mick was at the point where in the next book, in Fires of Heaven, Rand and Aviendha do actually hook up. And Aviendha says in that igloo or wherever they are when they run off into the snow, she's run this far and she can't run any longer. And when they do actually hook up, she immediately relaxes. She says, that she now has tow towards Elayne, and she stops antagonizing Rand because now, the cat's out of the bag. So it was all because of what she felt for Elayne, not just because, I think you should be loyal to her. It's because she's seen herself break that trust that Elayne has in her. And that's what's got her back up the whole time. And she apparently from that point onward, she starts undressing in front of Rand with the lights on and stuff as well. Just sort of, she tells him it's never going to happen again. First of all, you belong to Elayne, or at least until she comes to a sister-wife agreement with Elayne. But now she starts like tempting him and showing him what he's missing out on, like completely changing her tune, which is amazing. I love it.
That all tracks. Now, that just makes absolute sense.
Track. But
Yeah.
listen, my question is that the tongrel that the wise ones go through? They don't go through the columns?
They also go twice. They only go to the heart on the second trip to Rhuidean. So it's
first
like
they go
the
through.
accepted and being raised to Aes Sedai. The first trial is through the rings, which is very similar to the archers.
Yes.
All right.
But that was my thing last time. I said, like, this the last time we saw that was the archers. Like, when we saw those possible futures.
Yes, yes.
I was on the right track.
So that's where Moiraine sees all these futures where Thom and Matt and a man she doesn't know come to try and save her from the Finns.
Who's the man that she doesn't know?
Jane Fastrider.
Jane Fastrider.
Yeah.
Oh,
If you're going to
so
pick a
much
hero
so
to go with
remember, man.
Yes, a lot, eh? I'm going to drop a couple surprises on you in this episode as well. At least I hope so, unless you have a photographic memory.
He's going by Noel or something? Noal? Noel or something is his name?
Noel? Gnome? Am I thinking of Noam Chomsky?
Noam Chomsky. I don't. Yeah. Something like that.
Noam Chomsky revealed as legendary hero Jane Fastrider.
That's where he got all those linguistic skills
old
from, all his
Noam.
world travels.
Okay, so we asked which book, or Jody, you asked me after I read Moraine's letter to Thom, you said, which book is that from? And I couldn't answer you on the spot. It's in The Fires of Heaven. It's the next book.
Oh wow.
Which means that, I mean, I'm pretty sure that immediately after, that happening is when she tackles Lanfear through the stone doorway. She's rescued from the Finns in book 13.
Oh crap.
So she is completely out of the story for 7 books.
No.
If she goes through the doorway in book 5 and is only rescued in 17, there are 7
13.
books in which she is not present.
So
Oh,
it's not 17 books.
sorry.
Just feels like it, but
Oh shit, the secret books. I shouldn't.
Yeah, I read Newspring in between. I think between 7 and 8 or something. So it kind of brought
that's a
it
good
back
idea.
into the story for me. Yeah,
If you're missing Moiraine, just jump into New Spring. Yeah.
That's a good idea. But yeah, I remember her being out of the story for a long time because after a while, when you don't hear from her again, you assume that she's dead, and then she does come back, and it's pretty great. So yeah, the reason you think that is because for 7 books she is not around. Then, when we were talking about Ruach and the Shido and the Tardad and the Jindo and the warrior societies and all that sort of stuff, I made an offhanded comment about like clan or sept or whatever, like basically tipping my hand a bit that I didn't understand the Aiel sort of societal structures that well. So I went to just clear it up. I mean, do you guys have a clear idea of what a sept is versus a clan versus a hold versus a warrior society? Like how those things are all different?
I thought I did. Now, doubting myself.
Yeah, warrior society is they're like stone dogs or maidens of the spear. A clan is a smaller family unit within a sept.
Other way around. The clan is the big unit. There are 12 of them, of which the Tardad and the Shido are ones.
And
the Jindo is a sept. It's a subgroup of the Tardad.
Not right.
No. Then I'm way off. Then whatever I was thinking is not correct.
So a sept is smaller than a full clan. Some of the clans are obviously bigger than some of the others. Some clans are just the clan and don't have any septs. Some clans are so big that they have septs. The hold is the physical residence, so it's like where they. I mean that kind of makes sense, but yes, exactly. So septs usually a hold is usually an entire sept, except where the clans are small enough or the hold is big enough. An entire clan can be situated in a single hold.
Okay.
And then the warrior societies are just like, like groups within each clan and sept. Everyone has stone dogs. Everyone
has those. Yes, they span the clans.
It's like a club for all Aiel to take part in.
Yeah.
And no member of any warrior society will ever fight another member of their society, regardless of the clan or sept that they are from.
Even if there's blood feuds?
Even if there's blood feuds. So Bayle and Chiad are in exactly that position. Bayle and Chiad weren't going to kill each other despite their blood feud because they're both maidens, but then they also went the extra step of becoming first sisters, right? Was it First Sisters? Christ
Guess
stepped in
it's-
it. God damn it.
Edit it out, Moritz. It's fine.
I have that power.
It never happened.
But then later, after Rand sort of quote unquote breaks the Aiel, like after his big reveal to them, the Shido actually start a new warrior society called the Brotherless, because, you know, like a large chunk of the Shido just basically say, well, no, we're leaving. And then little bits, like little, there's a trickle of other people from other clans as well that also join the Brotherless. So that becomes a warrior society because it's got members of different septs and clans and stuff in there. So
I recall that.
There are 12 warrior societies, 13 when the Brotherless are formed, the Mirrodin, but there's only one female warrior society, the Fardaris Mai, obviously. So all female warriors are Fardaris Mai.
All right. Well, that didn't take as long as the last little Aiel lesson Moritz gave us. Thank God.
Not even close. Then we asked, I said, I have kids. And apparently there's no record, you know, since the breaking or since, you know, the unleashing of the Dark One and the tainting of the male half of the Source, there's no record of Aes Sedai having kids. There's probably some One Power related trickery involved with, you know, not falling pregnant. But apparently there's also another herb called heartleaf tea, which I don't know if it acts as like a morning after drink or a contraceptive, but it's supposed to prevent pregnancy, or at least birth. And Elayne becomes the first Aes Sedai to have kids since the breaking.
I don't believe that. Maybe there's no record. But
On record, yes.
On record.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Then we briefly asked, is Emlyn Volder a dark friend? No, he wasn't. And neither was Asunawa.
Just a massive dick.
Yes.
Virtually indistinguishable from Dark Friend. Okay.
Yes. We asked, what is Alana's loyalty? Like, who is she in the Two Rivers to serve? You know, like, what is her bigger agenda? But apparently she avoided the tower after the split because she disliked Elida, but she also disapproved of the rebellion. So she's a little bit in between. She's a bit of a fence sitter. And she seems, at least initially, to be acting on her own accord. Like, all her interest in Egwene in the White Tower and all her interest in the boys and all that sort of stuff seems to be... there is no discernible directive from anyone else sort of, you know, prodding her in that direction. She seems to be acting on her own. We also asked, how is the Amerlin's traveling companion party setup chosen? You know, like when they came to Foldara, she had the likes of Alana and Leandrin, Verin, you know, quite a few. Was Alviarin also there? Like, there was quite a few big names with her. But I couldn't find anything that tells you how that traveling group is chosen. But there is a rule that the Amelin needs a minor majority from the hall to allow her to travel at all. So she needs the hall to agree for her to travel, because there is a rule that states that Amelin is not allowed to knowingly put herself in danger. So it's a rule to protect the Amelin that she needs to get permission from the hall to make sure that she doesn't intend to travel to a place where she is putting herself in danger. So maybe the hall actually, like, I think, Vili, you even suggested in the episode that maybe the sitters actually do nominate representatives from their Ajahs to accompany the Amelin on a trip like that.
They
So
play
not
trip
drawing
bingo.
of straws.
They're all sitting in the hall and they're like, next ball's a 47, lucky 47, let's go
Bingo!
47. Leandrin, you're going on the trip. Look under your seat, you got a bag.
Oh, man. Okay. Now I'm imagining Oprah as the Amelin seat.
There's a casting choice for you.
Okay. Now, we asked what the hell is going on with Fane and Bornhold and Slayer. And in my research, in my response, I wrote a long sort of paragraph about how I went and I double checked, you know, who is Fane talking to when he says, you know, did you see the grey men or the shadows coming to kill me? And the way that I'd interpreted that was because it is Fane telling Bornhold, hey, did you see those fades? Oh, not the fades, sorry, the grey men.
Mm.
Did you see those grey men? And Bornhold goes, "Oh, it's true. I was in the middle of 50 men when those grey men attacked." And he says, "Yeah, no, the shadow is trying to kill me," says Fane, or Ordeith. And I had always thought that was Ordeith sort of orchestrating that because he's trying to manipulate Bornhold. Jody, you thought that Fane genuinely believed that the shadow was trying to kill him. And after writing my whole little treatise, I came across a quote from chapter 42, which we'll cover in the next episode. So let's wait for that one with bated breath, where I think it's Slayer actually tells Perrin that he brought the trollocs to the Two Rivers to unsettle the White Cloaks so that he can kill the quote-unquote renegade.
Mm.
Renegade?
Fane.
Ah, okay.
So it sounds like Slayer might be there specifically to try and kill Fane. Or at least as part of his goal.
Job at
Yes. And then later, there's another brief mention. I've not read up to this point. This is just what I found online, where Luke is having a conversation with Bornhold, and they're talking about a skirmish in which Ordeith was present. And Luke mentions, "I hope that Ordeith died." Like he is twice referring to his wishes for Fane's fate to be, well, death.
Sealed. Yeah. Oh, look, I agree with him on that point.
So, Joe, I think you were spot on. I think it seems to me now, without focusing on just what I've read thus far, but looking ahead, it seems like Slayer is trying to kill Fane, either as his primary goal or at least as one of his sort of side quests.
Man, it could have been
He's
so
got a lot of
different
quests.
when they had Fane in a cell at Valdara, when they could have just ended him there, and there could have been a lot of heartache not happen in the story.
Yeah, your version of the Aes Sedai torture and murder prisoners.
It's a dark friend.
It's okay.
You sound like a white cloak. Moving on. Speaking of white cloaks, you remember when Perrin and Fael sneak into the white cloak camp to go free the Luans and Matt's mom and sisters?
How can we forget that?
Fael is knocked over by a large dude who tackles Perrin, and Perrin's like, "Jesus, this guy is huge," and he's got his hands around Perrin's throat. I think that was 100-man Farron.
Yeah?
Because he is described as being absolutely massive.
All right. I pictured 100-man Farron as short and stocky for some reason. I
Really?
did not read that correctly.
He's described as being huge. And now this is not, again, from the text. This is an online description that is probably collated from various descriptions or a specific spot. But yeah, he's described as really, really big. So I like to think Farron, who likes to bash tinkers about, got his ass handed to him by a woman.
Good.
It's kind of like think of him as the mountain that he's been.
Yes, got his comeuppance.
Comeuppance.
That is definitely my headcanon now, that Fael smashed Farron in the head with a log. I corrected myself. I was wondering, like, is the river south, where Devon Ride is that the White River or the River White? Because, like I said, my wife grew up in a town called White River, and it is the White River. So I need to stop correcting myself. I'm not inserting my wife's town into the story. It is actually the same name. So I'll stop calling it the River White.
All right. So your wife is literally from the same place as Rand and the boys. All right.
She's also from the area. She's from the Two Rivers. Yeah.
Well, whatever. The old blood is strong with her.
Oh yes, very much so. Yeah. Whenever she gets really pissed off with me, it's all old tongue.
Yeah.
Hayden Kadir is not decapitated, but he is skinned alive.
I don't know why I'm laughing, but anyway. Oh, he got skinned alive.
Because he's a dark friend. Suck it, Kadir.
Who skins him alive?
Lanfear. It's when she hears about Rand sleeping with Avienda.
Mm-hmm.
He happens to be there, or maybe he brought the news or something like that.
He brought her the news, and she was so
hell hath no fury.
Don't be messing with Lanfear.
And then lastly, Vili, a number of people wrote in and tweeted. I think Adrian tweeted an image of the animated Robin Hood movie. People wrote in saying they
Yeah, I
all
saw
they
that.
all got that reference 100%. Rowan and Kerry wrote in saying the same thing. So I felt like I needed to call out that maybe your reference didn't get the love it deserved in the episode. So it's getting it here
Exactly
now.
right.
Our fan base got it, even if Joe and I didn't. Okay, so that's it for callbacks. Short and sweet.
You call that short and sweet? That's a half an hour, man.
Yeah, like I said, short and sweet. So, previously on Blood and Ashes, the Perrin starts making moves to organize the defense of the two rivers against the Trollocs and the White Cloaks alike. Rand, Mat, Moiraine, Avienda all return from Rhuidean when Rand is revealed to all the Aiel present as the Kara Khan, but nobody's thrilled about it. In fact, the Shido try to kill him twice. Egwene gets reprimanded by Amis for being a little oathbreaker and going off into Tel'aran'rhiod, even though she promised not to. And everyone packs up from Rhuidean and venture off towards Alcar Dal so that Rand can go inform the other clan chiefs of his cool new tattoos. And along the way, they collect a couple peddlers, including Lanfear and Asmodean. Nothing to see here. Yes.
Come check my tats, bro. That's what he's going to say to
Sweet
them.
tats. Which brings us now to chapter 37 called Imre Stand. And why don't you start us off, Willem?
Sure. Imre Stand, and I'll quote, "The mountain can grow awfully heavy sometimes in this new format of having to pick up so much of the responsibilities." But yes, Rand and his caravan, who is now literally joined by 6 caravans, are making slow track through the waste. The sun's not particularly low in the afternoon, but Rock says it's a couple of miles. We're going to approach Imre Stand, and that's where they will stay for the night. And Rand is a little bit like, but there's still plenty of light. We can keep pushing. And why are we stopping specifically there? And Rook replies, obviously, he doesn't want the wagon wheels to break. This is rough terrain. It's slow going with the peddlers in tow. And Avienda gives him just another smirky remark from the side saying, "And there's water, you idiot." Like, so there's no love from Avienda's side. We do understand why it is. Now, in the whole movement, Moiraine and Egwene are with the wise ones in between the Jindo and Shido, sort of probably to keep the peace, that there's no breakout of violence.
Mm-hmm.
And it's slow going. Now, Rook has already sent out a few Jindo maidens to scout, or water scouts, I think it was, correct me if I'm wrong, to go ahead and see
Sounds right.
Yeah, to scout the stand. And they come back, but Rand can immediately see that, whoa, something is amiss. There's not something right there. He tries to make out and picks up bits and pieces, and he asks Avienda, but she doesn't answer him. She's more interested to hear herself, obviously wanting to get into the fight. But eventually, after sort of hard talking to her, she's like, "No, there can't be any trouble. I mean, it's a goat stand. I mean, there's a raid possibly, and then what trouble can there be?" But Rock then takes a couple of the maidens, and they veil themselves and go ahead. And slowly, the slow caravan moves on closer to the stand there. And Ruark is seen standing quite openly, and he's lowered his veil. Rand joins him, and it's kind of like, what's happening? It's like something's not right, because the goats are out, and I can see a couple of what resemblance and what are they? A mohair goat, long white hair. What are they called?
Angora.
Angora. There we go.
There we go.
So hardy, they live in South Africa in the very dry Klein Karoo and do quite well in that arid areas. So it's very fitting. But he says, look, if there's somebody here, Ruach now, they've seen me, they know my face. He's popular in the area. He's got a bit of rapport. They would have come out. He doesn't think there's anyone there. And they make the move and pull into this area where there's a bit of a drink. So it turns out that the area would have been used by the clan that holds that lands, and I forget the Goshin.
Can't remember who.
Yeah, but it's only the Gaishain that would be tending to the goats there, that would sort of stay there. So there wouldn't have, there's no sign of killing or anything that they can see, sort of like a battle. But on close inspection of the little houses, stone houses that's almost built into the cliff faces, there's two small ones there. They can see that there's been something happened, and someone had thrown black something up against the walls and the roofs. And to Rand's horror, he realizes, no, that's blood. Of course, Matt pulls in, sticks his head in there. It's like, this is the work of trollocs, no doubt. And Avienda is right back. Oh, what do you know, Wetlander? There's no trollocs within 200 miles of this place. We don't hide from trollocs. We hunt trollocs in the waste. But there was something there, and they did violence. Anywho, they decide to now set up camp for the afternoon and for the night, so they can get moving in the morning again. Rand tries to get information of Avienda. She is so snippy at him that he decides, okay, to get rid of her, the best thing he can do is to go practice sword forms, because Aiel hate the sword. So maybe she'll actually leave him alone. He finds Lan, because Lan has also been sort of shunned to the side. He's just moving in between the Jindo, because obviously Moiraine had sent him packing earlier, like, woman talk, get away here. So he's all too happy just to go and work the practice sword with Lan, but he's tired. Rand is feeling it. He's been in the hot sun all day, and he's struggling with the forms, and he eventually realizes that there's a bit of a crowd gathering around him. But before we get there, I want to roll back quickly. Okay. On the inspection of the little stone shack that the murder was done in, our favorite dark friend, Cadre, well, I don't know how we're going to pronounce him.
Cadre.
That guy.
Hadnan
had pulled Isandre out of the wagon. Matt, of course, is like, whoa.
Hello?
I can have a little bit of that. But she is playing the damsel in distress. Oh, this heat is so oppressing. And meets Rand and sort of, oh, so you the Dragon Reborn. I thought you would have been more handsome. So a little bit flirtatious there. And Avienda picks up on this. Negging him, yeah. And Avienda picks up on this, and Rand sort of looks at her departing the scene to go back from this oppressive heat into her caravan shelter, and says, well, Rand, I thought there's only one woman for you, and that's Elayne. And would you look at me if I take off my clothes and walk naked like that in front of you? And I was like, yeah, something's starting to tickle in my head here now. It's maybe what you're thinking secretly. But anyway, but yeah, Rand is working the sword. A group of Aiel have now sort of keeping their distance, but they paying close attention. And this is where Ruach comes in with 2 short spears and 2 butlers. Said, well, maybe you should try these out. This is worth a go. And he's exhausted. And that's where the quote comes in. That mountain can grow awfully heavy sometimes, he sighed, taking the spears and the buckler from Ruach. When do you find a chance to put it down a while? When you die, Lan simply said.
Jesus,
right, Lan, there. It's like, there you go. When you die.
Without skipping a beat.
Without skipping a beat, you're quite right.
When do you get a chance to put this mountain down? When you die.
Now back to work, bitch.
Right. Now, the story also breaks away there and jumps to Matt. And also Matt's perspective of all of this, where Matt doesn't work the forms. Matt finds a wagon wheel to go and sit against and drink beer. Warm ale, not strong enough for the Aiel. It's like drinking warm, but he can't give a damn. It's so hot, he just drinks it. It's like the best thing he had all day. And he's kind of like paying attention to the trading that's happening and what the Aiel value, what they don't value, where they can get things cheaper, and realize that they're not just, oh, there's a peddler, throw money at them. They drive a hard bargain. They barter quite fiercely, but certain things books go quickly and all of that. But through all of this, he's constantly delving into this memory because he saw a crossbow, and then he already goes into thought like so many men with a crossbow can do this. Like, but where am I getting all these memories? And it's coming back to Matt, and he realized, and not thinking, he said a phrase in the old tongue, which I won't try and paraphrase because I'll do it very poorly, let's be honest. And this is when the gleeman, Jaichim Natal is his name, pulls in and says, "Oh, right, you speak a bit of the old tongue." He's like, "No, I just heard a few phrases." Always like, and he's think like, "Geez, Matt, you're gonna find yourself locked up in the tower to be studied by an Aes Sedai if you carry on with this old tongue. Like, you just got to rein it in a bit." And the Jason is now trying to get Matt to tell him everything about Rhuidean and ask him specifically about his unique spear sword. Jody, you say it so well. Ashendari?
Yes, you say it so
There
well
we
as
go.
well.
There we go.
Which
Something
literally
I say right.
translates to sword spear.
Sword
Yes.
spear.
Yeah.
And yeah, he tries to coax Matt into sort of, I can make you a hero in a story. No one's ever been there, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I ain't no bloody hero, mate.
Barking up the wrong tree.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Nah, so Matt does proceed to tell him, but also keeping out selected bits. So we don't know what he has told Asmodean about what's in Rhuidean, because the Gleeman is Asmodean, as we well know, and he is obviously fishing for a lot of information. Eventually, he is pulled away, Jaichim now, by Kalail.
Who are these people?
Shrugs.
Shayogi, Lanfear.
Lanfear.
Shayogi.
The woman, Shayogi.
Kail Shayogi. What's her name?
Is it Kail? Kail? Yes, I'm just going to call her Lanfear. The one
much
who's in
easier.
the Mask of Mirrors as a very large woman. And reprimands him for not helping with work and blah, blah, blah. But she obviously needed to have a little chat with her partner in crime. And that's when it all sort of pulls back together. Now it's dinner time. And Matt moves and joins Rand, Rock, a couple of the guys. And there's also the peddler with the whole Dark Friend crew there. They're all sitting around having their goat and their veggies and talking about the day, when all of a sudden warning cries. And within a split second, veils are up. It's done. It's battle time. And they are stormed by hordes of trollocs. And Matt just grabs his Ashandare, and Matt goes to town. He uses that thing like a quarterstaff and a sword all in one go, and just slicing trollocs left, right, and center until he faces up against the Fade. Matt he blocks the blows. The Fade is coming at him with all hell and fury, and he realizes in this he still has time to think about where this must be Aes Sedai made, because it's really like handling the blows well. It's like, this is the only thing I'm thankful for, if it's Aes Sedai made. Like, good on that. But he eventually plants the blade in the chest of the Fade, and before it even hit the ground, it's pinned like a pincushion with arrows from the Aiel. And he thinks, he doesn't know if the battle was a hour or 5 minutes. I tend to think trollocs attacking 2 whole septs of Aiel is not going to last very long. So I'm going to go with 5 minutes. But Matt is now also really, he can wield it. He's got the power to face up to any of these dark foes.
Was this Matt's first fade? Parents killed 2, 3, 2 at this stage. Rand's killed a couple.
No, Matt had one in the stone.
Oh, did he?
Yes, he had a fate there that he took on.
No,
but
there was a fate that was stalking him, and then it turned around and left him. Something like that. Wasn't it something weird like that?
He was faced by a fate, but I don't think he can't remember.
He had killed 2 trollocs, and he was retrieving. He threw his dagger, and the fate knocks the dagger out of the air with its sword like it's nothing. And Matt's like, "Oh fuck! I wouldn't give for like a quarterstaff or some more space, or like like." And then the fate sort of looks at him, and is either drawn away or killed by someone else. Oh, it's killed by someone else. And Matt goes, "What the fuck just happened?" Like,
doesn't it get attacked by another fade? That's when the two factions start fighting each other?
Yes, that's
something
right.
like that.
Yeah, you're right, Joe. That's exactly what happened there. That's but
yeah, that was not that long ago, guys.
It's not a story.
We read those chapters 3 times, recorded a podcast. No idea. Don't remember anything.
Willie, please feel free to proceed.
I will, because it's right at the end now. The battle is done.
The end.
It is won. Not the end. Moiraine does the rounds. She's obviously had to heal a tremendous amount of people, and she spares Rand no reprieve from his exhaustion. Rand is super tired, so she's like, do it naturally, go to sleep. And Rand goes to his tent for a nap. Avienda follows him. The next morning he wakes up, he's happy to find her there again. She told him about standing naked in front of him, and now is happy to find her there. So that was a very brief run through of the events of that chapter, but there's a lot of interplay between a lot of characters there.
Oh yes.
Yeah, the dynamic between Avienda was very notable for me between Rand. That sitting through all of that and knowing obviously what comes, but not knowing what you said now with her going through that other Terangriel, that she saw her future, and that's why she's got such a visceral reaction thereafter to Rand. So that tied it all together for me now, like, because I was thinking, okay, what's happening here? Like, it's this can't just be Elayne. It just can't be the letters. She goes to the letters. I don't think she knows that the 2 letters were so completely different.
She doesn't know what was in them, no. She also only heard from Egwene that Elayne had really, quote unquote, meant what she said, like she's relaying second, third hand information. But I was saying to Richard and Mick, who had written in, that I will now be looking at their interactions, knowing exactly why Avienda is pissed off at Rand. Because, I mean, to an Aiel, incurring tow is the worst, right? Like, they want to avoid that at all costs. And now she's seen in all these multiple futures that she and Rand do the thing that incurs tow towards Elayne, and arguably some of the worst tow you can imagine.
It's going to happen.
It is. Jody, did you have anything to add there? I've got a couple notes to run through.
No, you go through your notes.
I noticed that, like, Rand muses that whatever is interesting the Wise Ones and Moiraine can't be something he'd be happy about. So, like, when the Wise Ones and Moiraine are sort of huddling, he's like, "Oh fuck, this does not bode well for me." So he's already seeing himself at odds. I mean, already with Moiraine, we know that, but at odds with the Wise Ones, right? So if they are planning something, it's not going to be good for me, which is a pretty tough starting point for Rand to take with every single interaction with people around him, right? Like, okay, how am I going to have to avoid or disappoint or evade these people and their schemes for me? So, I'm trying to take note of, like, just how many things are being layered on top of Rand for him to worry about. And this just is now another one, the Wise Ones and their plan.
Since you said that now, I forgot to mention that this is also the chapter where Rand, via Rook, finds out that Avienda is becoming a Wise One. So all of that clicks in now, and it's like, that's why she's with me, because now it's them that's put her up to this so that little bit also tick the box there.
Yeah. When Rand sort of gets annoyed with Avienda and he says, should you be talking to the Kara Khan like that? I am like your chief of chiefs. And Avienda sort of laughs at him and Ruach says, yeah, look, a clan chief is not like a wetlander king. Anybody has the right to speak to a chief. But then he looks at Avienda and he goes, some do push the bounds of honor. Which I thought was a cool dad reprimand, like he's not saying it outright, but he's saying, you are fucking pushing it. Wind your neck in. I love Ruach.
Yeah.
He's like a more emotive Lan.
Slightly more.
Yeah.
Also, like you mentioned, Vil, love the fact that Matt just pokes his head in. He's like, oh yeah, this is Trolloc work. As if he has all this experience. And now we know, obviously, that he does. There's also a part that there's a lot of like brief moments of levity in here. But I enjoyed Lan's sudden smile after saying, if Rand loses concentration in a fight, it'll likely be a farm boy who puts his hands on a sword for the first time that kills him. And then he laughs. Like Lan actually smiles at him. And you know how rare that is. Just reminding us, like, Rand is not the farm boy anymore. If Lan is talking to him about a farm boy, it's that Lan in his mind has already separated Rand, or Rand has graduated from that level, which is
from
cool.
farm boy level.
Yes.
Yeah, Rand just went straight from farm boy to dragon reborn.
Yes.
There's no steps in between. Straight to black belt.
I quite enjoyed this sort of little strategy lesson that Lan gave Rand as well when he draws in the sand. Like this is the Aiel have many battle tactics. They are skilled warriors. I mean, that there can be no doubt. But this is one of the tactics that they favor. And then Avienda goes, don't pretend like you know what'll work. And then again, Ruach pulls up and he goes, it's worked well enough for the Borderlanders, like interpreting our tactics and countering it with this way. Which is also just another cool Ruach moment. He's just open and honest about it. Like, yeah, we favor that tactic, and the Borderlanders have figured it out for the most part, and sometimes they do counter it quite well. So the fact that he mentions the Borderlanders is cool because we know that that's where Lan would have learnt it, either from the Shinarans or from a leftover Malkiri.
It's very awesome for me that dynamic between Lan and Ruach. It's
yes,
even the fact that there's definitely history. Not between them as individuals, but as a war situation that they went through and in the Borderlands. Definitely, but there's no bad blood. And they tend to just complement each other the whole time without complimenting each other.
Plus, the Aiel like have a name for Lan, not like the Malkiri or anything. Like An Alien, like he who walks alone or whatever it is. Like, it's cool that the entire race of Aiel know about this one guy. And now he's there. I also had a chuckle at Rand telling himself that he's going to be training with the spears because the Jindo and the Shido are watching. Not for Avienda's sake. No. That's not why he's doing it. Okay, Rand. Cool.
Yeah,
you tell yourself that. Because later at the end of the chapter, he also, when he sees Avienda outside his tent, he goes, oh, well, at least I know who she is and what she feels for me. Thinking that he knows she hates him. No, Rand, you know nothing. You are like a little schoolboy or a little farm boy in a haze of pheromones you do not understand. What else? There's one part where Kadir is talking to Couladin, and Couladin sort of stalks off, and Kadir is staring after him so hard that there's a Jindo who has to speak to him 3 times before Kadir registers that someone's talking to him. And I wondered if this was Kadir sort of looking at Couladin and going, now there's a prime candidate for turning to the shadow. That guy is a real piece of shit. I can use that guy. I don't know. That's my headcanon. But I mean, it's called out that he stares after Couladin. And what would Kadir have to stare after Couladin? I mean, maybe they've had interactions in the past.
Hey, maybe he was already turned before this.
Aren't the Shido manipulated by Demondred or someone at some point way down the track with those little cubes that make them teleport and stuff? Like they get aid from the Forsaken without knowing it. I don't know if it was Demondred, but does that ring a bell, Jody? Your face looks...
That did ring a bell, but this is the first time I'm remembering that part in years. Yes, because it's... what's her name? The wise one that leads the Shido? Something with an S?
Savannah?
Savannah. Savannah is in league with one of the Forsaken that she doesn't know is a Forsaken that gives her these gifts. Yeah, that's all coming back now. Well, not all of it. That's all that's come back now, should I rephrase?
Yeah.
I don't know what any of that means or what happens after that.
When does Savannah come into the fold?
Not
Next
long
book.
now.
Yeah.
Soon.
Yeah.
Soon. When he gets to Al-Qaeda and all those places, yeah. Because I was speaking to Christina, who said she was on the next book. She is almost finished book 6. She doesn't even know where she is. She just keeps reading and can't just, when the one book ends on the Kindle, just start the next one. It all blends together. She's like 5 chapters away from Dumai's Wells.
Oh,
wow.
I'm so envious.
Oh, yeah.
Such a weird thing to say because we are busy reading the books.
Yeah, she's already knows everyone in Saladar. She knows about the Ashaman. Whoa. I was like, whoa, that's in the next 2 books. All of this shit happens. So much good stuff coming, guys.
You remind her not to spoil it for you, Jody. Just
no,
spoilers.
She does. No. She tells me some stuff. I'm like, cool. I want to know, but also shut up. I don't want to know. I want to read it myself.
It's amazing how often we find ourselves thinking, wow, this is happening already?
Yeah.
What else is going to happen? Turns out a lot.
Yep.
There's a part where Matt is watching one of the peddler, the wagon drivers, bargaining with one of the maidens, and he tries to sell her an ivory bracelet, and she pulls out an even bigger, more ornate bracelet of ivory as well. And then she says to the driver, "I'll wrestle you for both." And the driver looks at it and he contemplates it and he goes, "No." And Matt goes, "He's an even bigger idiot than he seems." No, Matt. He made the right choice. He made the right choice. She would have quickly got him in an arm bar or a rear naked choke or something.
Yeah.
Jason Natal, I'm not going to call him Jason. Asmodean says to Matt about the Aiel, "Not what I expected." Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. Yeah. Last time I saw these guys, they were very different.
Yeah, a lot more passive.
Yeah.
What happened to the Way of the Leaf guys? And then I also enjoyed Matt actually referring to the fight with the trollocs as a dance and joking with Avienda, and she actually gives him a smile, fucking stone-faced wetlander hating Avienda, laughs at Matt's jokes. Just again, Matt just can't help but be charming. And then the last note was the one where Rand says, "Spy or not, he was glad to see her. At least he knew who and what she was and what she felt for him." Incorrect, Rand. Okay, enough blathering. You guys thought you were going to be rid of. You thought you were going to be rid of my droning voice. Also, incorrect. Chapter 38 is called Hidden Faces. Why don't you enlighten us, Jody?
Right on. We heading back to Tanchico here to go join Egeanin. I'm just going to call her Egeanin from now on, because that just suits her. She's got that edgy haircut. She's always so serious. So anyway,
you know you're doing a big POV jump when you get a map.
Yeah. Yes. I had to turn that map around as well to find west. All right.
It's my first note. Why the fuck is the map sideways? Who orients a map like that?
North to the left. What the fuck? Why is north to the left?
Why? Anyway.
Yeah, okay. Rant over. Map rant over. So Egeanin there is also in disguise. She's let her hair grow long. Again, more of these foolproof disguises that everyone seems to be employing. It's like men in the tower put on a dress. Indistinguishable.
Put on some thick rimmed glasses with a fake moustache.
The big plastic nose. And then Loyal as well. He's they just put a cloak over him. He's like a 10 foot tall on the back of a horse. Put a cloak over him. No one will ever know. So anyway, she is hunting Suldam and by extension Damane, and she has engaged the services of Florin Gelb, who you might recall from the sea spray or whatever it was called back then. Old Bayle Domon's crew. He's the guy that fell asleep and let the trollocs attack and get on board, and then tried to get all the crew members. This is in the Eye of the World still, if people remember.
And incited the riots in Whitebridge.
All of that dude. He is just generally a bad guy, so Bayle kicked him off the ship and said, look, you're fired. Take your shit and go.
Yeah.
So here he is. Turns up again in Tanchico, where Bayle is also. A whole bunch of people
In
are in
the same
Tanchico
room.
right now. Yes. They don't see each other. But anyway,
No.
she's engaged his services, and he's got a bunch of guys, and they are hunting these Suldam that have escaped and run away. So apparently a whole bunch of Suldam have fled after Felme, because I suppose somewhere of them along the line have figured out that, holy shit, I could be collared.
Mhm.
Bad news. I don't want to be here anymore. So off they've
Well,
gone.
they're also hunting these Suldam and Damane under the orders of Siroth,
Yes.
who does know the
Mhm.
secret.
Yes.
So she is making sure that secret stays a secret by hunting these people down, so it doesn't come out.
Yeah, that does come up later on. So they've only found one Suldam so far, but it's not for lack of trying. Gelb has attacked many random women who barely
Countless
fit.
innocent women.
Just random women walking around have been attacked. And it's like he's probably got a record of about 1 in 100 so far of actually success rate. She is like, Egeanin is just like, just dude, stop it now, all right? He wants more gold. He's got some more information. He's going to get some people. And she's like, dude, listen, you're fucking up way too much. I'm not giving you any more money. Moritz, you look very thoughtful.
Yes, I think I just had potentially an epiphany.
All right.
In this passage, Egeanin, that's how I'm going to pronounce it, just to make
Egeanin.
things... Yeah, Egeanin. Doesn't she muse to herself about this one lady that Gelb had kidnapped, a lady, Leilwyn?
Mm-hmm.
And when I read that name, I was like, fuck, that sounds familiar.
Mm-hmm.
And I Googled it, and it just mentions her as a noblewoman from Tanchico that was abducted by Gelb.
I also did all of the exact same things.
But doesn't Egeanin, when she later assumes a fake name, doesn't she use Leilwyn?
Yes.
Ah, okay. Click.
That's why the name is familiar. Exactly. I had the same thing. I read that name and I went, I know this person. And I Googled it, and some random noblewoman who was then put on a boat afterwards. They kidnapped her by accident, then put her on a boat and sent her away. And that's like the last you ever hear of this woman. And I thought, oh, well, bummer. No, because she assumes her identity later on.
That's
or her name, at least.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Well,
epiphanized.
Live realizations.
There you go. So they are having their meetings in a very fancy, in the very fancy Garden of the Silver Breezes, which is a wine shop. But it's on one of these peninsulas, the most westernmost, or the one at the bottom of the page if you're looking at the sideways map.
Yeah.
And of these little peninsulas that come out into the bay, overlooks the port, and she actually, Egeanin actually sees the Seafolk ship entering the harbor and mentions it, and that's the same ship that Nynaeve and Elayne are on. So yeah, there's a lot of like crossing of paths in this chapter. So everybody here in this very, very fancy wine shop, because look, the city is fucked, full of refugees, and all shit is breaking loose. But all the fancy people still get to spend their money, as is the way with the world. Rich people are unaffected by these things. They only get a bit richer, but they're all wearing masks because they're all up to no good, and they're trying to protect their secrets. And all of the little tables in this wine shop have little low walls around them with like lace work so that you can kind of see if anybody's spying on you. Like, it's all designed to have secret conversations without anybody, eavesdropping on you. Very eyes wide shut, I thought of, with all the masks and everything, except with much less sex, but an equal amount of violence.
That we know of.
That we know of, yes. Who knows what's happening in the private rooms?
Yeah, the VIP lounge upstairs doesn't have any windows.
Yeah. So, just as she is about to leave, she's finished now talking to Gelb. She's like, all right, I'm not giving you any more money. Please piss off. She spots old Bayle. Bayle Domon is there. He's got no mask on because he doesn't give a shit if anyone recognizes him. And he's made quite a business for himself in Tanchico. We learn about it as we go along. Oh, this dude is like, he's everywhere. He doesn't recognize her. Of course, she's wearing her mask and she's kind of hidden away, but she hides away.
She's got long hair now, Jody.
Yes, of course. Of course. My foot is... The mask did nothing. It was the long hair. She also spots our good old friend Bors, who's also in there. So everybody is now in Tanchico. It's the place to be. He's in town with a few hundred, I think around 500 white cloaks, and they're there to cause shit, which is what they do. We'll get into the details later. So after she's left, she's in the street. Her sedan chair bearers carry her off. There's no more horses in town. People are starting to kill them and eat them. That's, having horses is a luxury. That's how bad the city has gotten.
Yummy.
She's her bearers are a mismatched lot, the worst of the worst, with cudgels and swords and like mismatched armor and things that they found all over the place, because it is dangerous now in the city. It's swarming with refugees, like I said, and she's disgusted, but not specifically by the refugees, by the people, but by a society that would allow this to happen. Like in Seanchan, this would never happen. And she's actually thinking like she can't wait until the city falls and the Seanchan take over again and restore the order.
I found that incredibly ironic. It is that way because they pulled in and stuffed everything up.
Yeah, but then they got chased away, Billy. If they had remained, they would have restored order.
Jody, how many wars have you fought? You're not mad. The after effects of war lingers. Come now, look at the Middle East.
Yes. I did not think I would ever be defending the Seanchan, but in their defense, the war that has displaced the refugees is the one between the Dragonsworn. So it's Rand's fault, not the Seanchan and
that came
Aradomon.
even after that. That's like war spill into another war, spill into another war. But this area
the region is unstable.
Okay. It wouldn't have been like A+, but it wouldn't have been F-. It's like a C. C.
Okay. You sound like you have fought many wars, Billy. Like all that is definitely soldier talk. All right. Clearly. But look, this woman, again, there's glimmers of hope for her, because she is donating some of the money she's getting from the Seanchan to fund a soup kitchen. And then later on, we find out that Bayle Domon actually has a soup kitchen, and I'm wondering, is she supporting Bayle Domon, but without even knowing it at this point?
She might be.
Yeah, she's just supporting a soup kitchen.
Good old Bayle, man. Yeah,
old Bayle.
What a great guy.
It's her future husband.
Yeah. Later on, I don't know. I'm not going to say anything because I've read far, far ahead. I'm on chapter 50 something already, so I was going to say something, but we'll skip that. So. She's at this point, she's thinking like everything would be better once the Seanchan come in and take over again. And then she thinks to herself, but why hasn't Lady Sora acted? Like, why hasn't she returned? And she has her dark friend reasons for not doing so. And that's basically where we leave her. She's on her way back to her house. And now we jump to another point of view. There's tons of POV jumps in this chapter. We're back to Carridin now, because we did see him there in the wine shop. He's meeting with a group of masked terror boners.
I know, you can't say it.
It's clearly written terror boners. I don't know. So they are masked.
The boners.
The boners. He's meeting with a bunch of boners in masks. And one of them is the king himself. Now they're supposed to be. Maybe we should wait for Billy to finish laughing.
Billy's broken.
It's like a bunch of children. Dick jokes.
It's just funny.
Tracks.
You read it and it doesn't make you laugh as much as when you say it.
I don't know how to read it any other way. So anyway, one of them is the king. So anyway, they all got their masks on. They think they're in disguise, but of course, Carridin knows exactly who every one of them is. He is not wearing a mask either himself. But anyway, he thinks he's busy. Like, we get a little insight into what he's thinking, and he's thinking about that fade in his chambers in Amador, if you remember correctly, when he got back from his meeting. How can you forget? And he's thinking, like, so far he's lost a cousin who was skinned alive because he hasn't found and killed Rand yet, and his own sister was carried off by a fade during her wedding feast. Like, holy shit, man. Like, not sneakily in the night, skinned alive and carried off at your wedding feast. Like, they're sending a very strong message.
He'd heard about that 2 months ago.
Yeah.
How can this guy still be operating? I mean, if you think about these things, and we're not talking about, he slipped and fell and now he's sleeping with the fishies. A fade stole his sister at her wedding feast. That's his cousin was skinned alive. These aren't small events. This is hectic.
Yeah. Doesn't stop him from offering up the rest of his family in a very near future. Yep.
right
He
in
is
the next page. Yes, so like
he's an
a whole
awful,
bunch
awful
of
person.
He's but look, he's under a lot of pressure, guys. Cut him some slack. You know,
Oh, shame.
He's made some
Oh.
shitty deals.
Boo-hoo.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, anyway, back to the story. Apparently, King Andric wants the White Cloaks to help him regain some order in the city. But of course doesn't want to owe anything to the White Cloaks afterwards. And Carridin's like, no, of course not. We would never suggest such a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever, dude. He's playing coy. Apparently, someone killed the Panok. Now, the Panok, I did a bit of research, is like the queen, although she doesn't have to be married to the king. So, Tarabon has a Panok and a king, and they're equal in power, although the Panok is in charge of, let me give you the list, taxes, customs, duties, the civil watch, and the courts. So, I'm wondering, what the fuck does the king do then, if he's not in charge of any of those things? Just sit around
Parties,
and look
fireworks,
parties.
food,
Yeah. Fireworks.
sports events.
Sports events.
Jousting. The king, the one court that she's not in charge of is the High Court of the King. So the king still does have a final say. It's
He's
probably
over
like
his
the
own
Supreme
court.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
But there's also what is the assembly called? The Grand Assembly.
The Grand Assembly are independent.
And that's like the three,
Yeah, they kind of
the
like
tripod of power.
Yes. Now,
judiciary on its own, or the Senate.
well, she's got power over the courts, over the judiciary.
Mm.
But anyway, so the assembly is the one that actually elects the king and the Panok.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not like normal kings and queens that pass it down to their children or whatnot. They get elected. So anyway, this one elected Panok is now dead. Somebody killed her. Nobody knows who killed her. But they have a lady in the waiting that they're going to now put in place instead of her and just pretend that she was kind of elected. The lady Amathera.
Who happens to be boning the king.
Yes. So in this case, she is actually sharing the king's bed, but it's not necessary. It's not like a normal king and queen scenario. This just is a huge coincidence. This poor woman, wow, in the following chapters coming up, she has a hard time. She is just another pawn in Dies de Mar, basically. So anyway, they need to get into the palace and the Panok's palace and install this woman. That's their plan. That's why they need the White Cloaks. So after assurances are made that Carridin will, have his demands met in exchange for his help, we never find out what these demands are. But the king seems to be happy with it. People seem to be cool with it, and he's happy with it, so can't be too bad. He leaves and heads back to his Airbnb. So they are all... He also contemplates all the beggars and the refugees on his way out, but he has a completely different reaction to them than what Egeanin does. He despises them. He even thinks to himself they should expel them from the city and have those rebels in the countryside take care of them. Like he has no respect for these people whatsoever and thinks that they should just be all murdered. Would be the simplest solution, basically. So we find out then, as he's thinking about all the problems in the city that he's got, the rebels out in the countryside. You can't just kill a Panok and expect no trouble. The king is losing control of the city. There's Dragonsworn out there as well, and quite a few bands as well. Masema is there amongst one of these bands, and he thinks as well that Rand must be there as well, like leading one of these bands. And it's like, dude, Rand is literally on the other side of the world.
You're way off the mark. Your family is doomed, and you are doomed.
Yeah. So yeah, and he's got all these things that he wants to deal with. He's got all these the like the rebels and the Dragonsworn, and he needs to take the Panok's palace. But he's only got 500 troops, and if you think about it, that's half of what Bornhold has in the Two Rivers. Like he has 1,000. So he's got far fewer troops and way more to do. Carridin is staying in a palace. The owner of the palace, his head is on a spike above the traitor steps, apparently. So he was disposed of, so that there's just a free open palace lying around. As he gets in there, so all the descriptions of the fine carpets and the wall hangings and the gilded this and the gilded that, he just heads straight for the brandy, and he has the beginning of old Bors's drinking problems. But before he even gets there, he notices that he is not alone. There is another person in the room, a woman dressed in a red gown. It's Bitchy McBitchface, everybody.
Oh.
God. Leandrin's there. So, he doesn't know her. obviously he's never met her, seen her face. He's very angry at that she's there and pulls out his sword and he demands that she fuck right off. And I've written here, good instincts. Definitely. She must go away as fast as possible. But she calls him Bors by name. And that kind of stops him right in his tracks. And she channels and wraps him up in flows of air, crushes his arm so that he drops the sword and pulls him down onto his knees in a begging position, basically. She knows him. She was there at the Dark Friend social. She reminds him of it. You were there, Bors. You remember when Bayle Domon gave us all these things about the three boys, the floating holograms and all of that works. But he thinks, of course, that she's there to kill him. She's been sent by whatever Forsaken he's been working for via the proxy of the Fade. And because he hasn't killed Rand, it's time to die. So he is just freaking out and just his brain is working 1,000 miles an hour. And he's thinking, but the Fade told him he'll be last. Like all his family would be killed first, then him. And he's got tons of family left. And this is where he starts spilling the beans.
So awful.
What a horrible human. Like, no, wait, I've still got a couple of cousins and nephews and nieces.
I've got a younger sister.
Yeah, she goes riding alone. She's easy prey. Yeah. Like you dick. Like, wow, he's just the worst.
That's just he is just despicable, man.
He is. Yeah, he really is a despicable human being. And I mean, next to Liandrin, he kind of, she kind of looks good. I don't know. Like in a room with Liandrin and Bors, I don't know.
No. Next to Liandrin looks evil. He looks good.
Yeah. I don't know. Eh?
Guys, we don't have to pick one. They can both be shit.
They can both be shit. They're very shit in special ways. Each uniquely shit. There you go. So anyway, he's struggling for ways on like how to find more time, get more time for himself to survive. But there's no need because she's not there to kill him. And she's just listening to all his blathering going, huh? What are you talking about? But keeping her eyes to eye serenity, she's learning more and more about him. Like, so you thought someone's here to kill you. And this comes up later in a discussion she has with her buddies. So anyway, she also wants control of the Panox Palace. And a little bird told her that he has just made a deal with the king. So the Silver Breezes is not such a secure place after all, because he's literally just come from there, and she already knows what the deal is. So she wants him now to work for her. She said, "Don't worry about it. No, but I'm not going to kill you. Now you now work for me, and you're my dog." Basically, she calls him a dog on several occasions.
Puts him on a leash.
Puts him on a leash, and she tells him like, "Listen, I need you to take care of the palace." And he's like, "Look, it's impossible because the king would send his troops. The Panok has her own legion. Like, I can't do it." And she's like, "Listen, we'll take care of Amathera and her legion by default, and then that'll give you the opportunity to take control of the palace for us." With that done, she leaves. This dude. So things are going from bad to worse for old Bors. He thinks to himself, if Pedro Niall hears about this, him taking over the Panox Palace, that he's going to think that that Carridin is making a power move here, since he's so far away. And then, of course, Pedro Niall will order his execution. So he's stuck between Pedro Niall now, who might suspect this, the Fade, who's working for a Forsaken that wants to kill him, and now the Black Ajah as well. And that brandy is so super tasty.
He's royally
He
fucked.
can just simply fall on his own sword. It would be an easier way out.
Yeah, but death is the Dark One's domain. I don't think it's going to help him. After he's dead, it's going to be even worse. He needs to be bale-fired. That's the only thing that's going to save him, basically. So anyway, he's sitting there on the carpet by himself, soiled his armor. It's not in a good spot. We leave him there, and we jump back. Point of view, Liandrin, Bitchy McBitchface. She's just left. She's walking down the hall, and as she comes out, she meets the guard that she compelled, that she used her little tricks on to allow her entry, and he gets a knife in the eye quickly because she leaves no loose strings. And off she goes. Her sedan chairs also whisk her off to a merchant's house where she is staying. This merchant is a dark friend.
Don't skip the best bit, Jody.
What best bit?
She's telling us how they kill with the power, like by making their blood boil inside their bodies,
stopping their hearts and stuff. She's pining over like how the others can kill with the power.
Yes. Not necessary. We can go into that afterwards. Look, I've got a lot to go through here, guys.
Yes, you do.
Killing with the power, similar to healing with the power. and she can't heal for shit. Okay, there you go. So her sedan chair whisks her off. Merchant's house with sedan and the merchant, like I said, is a dark friend, so that's how they got the connections there. She's bummed that she doesn't have a palace like old Boars, but one day is her thinking. And one of her thoughts that I did write down, Philly, is that she thinks that those fools in the tower have no idea that she's in Tarabon with everybody else. And she's sort of true. Nobody that is currently in the tower suspects that, except maybe other Black Ajah members. But every Aes Sedai that is not currently in the tower knows where she is. That's Nynaeve, Egwene, Elayne, even though they're not full Aes Sedai yet. Moiraine knows. And they just pulled in. They're like literally downstairs in the harbor getting off a boat right now. They've come for you. So upon entering her merchant's house, she asks a cheeky servant by the name of Gildan where all the other Black Ajah members are. She doesn't call them Black Ajah, they're her friends. Apparently they are in the front withdrawing room. But unbeknownst to Liandrin, but of course beknownst to us, Gildan is in fact Moghedian in disguise. So she has taken on this guise and she's keeping an eye on things, and that's why she is cheeky and insolent. And old Liandrin can't figure out why the servant would not show her any respect or jump to it or anything.
No deference whatsoever.
Nothing.
I didn't realize that. I thought that behavior was weird, so I went, because I haven't read ahead, so I went and I googled this character and it's like, oh, it's on Moghedian's page. It's one of her aliases. Okay, cool.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what triggered me as well, because I read, no, this is too blatant for me to read over this. And we know now that the Forsaken are everywhere.
That went over my head. I didn't think of that. I didn't remember that. And I was just thinking like, poor servant woman. It's got to go get strapped by the cook. And it's just...
You are so blinded by your hatred for Liandrin. You don't question anything the servant is doing. Basically.
So anyway, Liandrin has her threatened with a beating for not cleaning properly. There's still dust everywhere. If she comes out and finds there's any dust, she's going to get a beating, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, Liandrin, shut up. Or actually, no, carry on, Liandrin. You deserve what's coming to you. She enters the front withdrawing room, and there she finds most of the other Black Ajah sisters, not all of them. But she has enough of there and announces to them that, hey, look, it's done. I've spoken with Carridin. We've got the Panox Palace. He's going to secure it for us. And she tells them as well this interesting tidbit that Carridin thought that she was there to kill him for not killing Rand. So she's like, obviously talking, because now in the room we've got a couple of, well, they're all Black Ajah, but they were all previously white, brown, green, and Liandrin red. And she's musing about this as well. They can't leave what they were behind. And between them all, they kind of figure out, mostly with the whites' logic, that they must be, warring Forsaken factions. So one faction was controlling him. They want Rand dead. And they're like, well, our orders are not to kill Rand. So what the fuck is going on, And they're all talking about this. And they're like, what's the point of being promised by the Dark One that we are going to rule the world if we're killed in the meantime by warring Forsaken factions,
Yeah.
Asne, she's one of the former Greens. She suggests using Balefire to kill the Forsaken, because that's the only thing. Because they figure there's no way they can face up to a Forsaken. Because they have Balefire, they have the Balefire to Angreal, the fluted rod. They've tested it once. It did not go well. No. It's uncontrollable to them. In a boat. Like, what? Why?
Idiots.
Look, like the Forsaken, they are not the brightest candles on the cake. So they can't control that. But Liandrin's like, look, once we find this thing that can control Rand, if we can control the Dragon Reborn, then we're in a true position of power. Don't worry about some fluted rod. That's what we need to focus on. So just then, Liandrin notices that Gildan is back in the room, just mopping or sweeping or some shit. And she's like, what the fuck are you doing here? And the woman's straight-faced, cleaning. You told me to clean, so I'm cleaning. So Liandrin sends her to the cook for a beating. Report to the cook and tell him I said you're a beating. Now, this is where I wanted to stop. And I'm wondering, poor cooks. This is not the first time people get sent to cooks and random people for beatings. Was that in his job interview? Is it on his CV? Or your job, your your duties will include shopping for supplies, preparing cakes, and the random beatings of women I send to you from time to time. I just like, I didn't sign up for this. I'm a cook. But anyway, there he is. He's going to have some beatings done. Marilyn is an ex-Brown. She's like, oh, while you're at it in the kitchen, like overlooking all of this, take one of my cats and go and feed it as well in the kitchen. So apparently one of them, there's two Browns. One of them's been collecting street cats and the other one's been killing them. And Leandrin thinks to herself, like, better not let that news out. That's going to cause cuck.
Yeah.
It's like, where are all my cats going? It's your buddy who's murdering them for fun.
It's like the crazy cat lady collecting them and the other one's just offing them as they come in.
Another
one is
so
run off.
dysfunctional.
Dysfunctional group of weirdos, man. Just incredible. So they turn to Eldrith, who is a former Brown, to see what she has found out about this thing that controls Rand. Apparently, it's all old news. She hasn't learned anything new, but they know it's a Teangril, number one, and that it's in the Panox Palace. And this is why they need
How do
Carridin.
they know it's in the palace?
The Brown, has been doing the research. She's been in the libraries and she's figured out that if there's anything of value, it's in the Panox Palace because it's in those display cases. So she's figured out that if it's going to control a male channel, it has to be a Teangril. And if it's of anything like that, of value of Teangril, it's going to be in the Panox Palace under safe, under lock and key, whatever.
Also, it'll be old.
Yes.
So maybe go check the museum
That's
in the
other
Panox
thing.
Palace.
Ah, okay. Because that's where Egeanin, when she went dream walking, she walked right past it.
Yes.
She looked at it.
She stopped and felt the pain and the hatred or whatever coming off it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So they know where it is, and that's why they need the White Cloaks to take the palace so that they can get in. Because this is still pre-traveling days when they could just open a portal and step inside. Bloop, there you go. So that's the end of that chapter. Well, not that chapter, of that POV. Now we jump back to Egeanin.
Before you keep going, in this exchange with, is it Eldrith?
Yes.
Leandrin is getting sort of like, she's very impatient. And Eldrith says something like, I'm still going through this book and we don't know what the thing is. And one of the other ones says, it doesn't matter. We'll check every candlestick, everything, because they don't know what this thing is.
Yes.
And Eldrith is like, well, actually what we've known is blah, 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 blah. And Leandrin freaks out and she uses the power to scatter the pages of this book that she's reading all over the room.
Yeah.
And
It's like it's old news.
It's old news. Tell me something I don't know. And then she goes, have you learned anything new? And Eldrith goes, actually, and then ... no. And then when they talk about getting the thing from the Panox Palace and being able to control the Dragon Reborn, Leandrin or one of the others says, yes, we'll have the Dragon Reborn on a leash. And to that, Eldrith smiles and she goes, yes, on a leash. And I wonder if Eldrith doesn't know what the Dominion bands look like, but because of what Leandrin did, is now withholding that information from the others.
Well, she's a Brown, isn't she? Well, she's black, but...
She's a Brown, and she's busy researching, and she was about to relay some information when Leandrin had her episode.
I would like to counter that. She says, I found a very interesting treatise or something that she was reading. That's what she found interesting. That's what she was so absorbed in. Because the entire time this conversation is happening, she's off in her own world, like a normal Brown, typical Brown. And she's reading about some treatise, not about that.
Which could be about?
No idea. But I did read again about those bands of domination or whatever they're called, a male Adam. And from the description I read, there are no leashes.
No, it's no leash on it.
There's nothing connecting the bracelets to the
Bluetooth,
collar, like
Bluetooth power.
It's Bluetooth connections.
Is it? Okay.
Yes.
Interesting. Because I thought it was weird that she wanted to say something because she says, actually, and then she stops. And when they say, we'll have the Dragon Reborn on a leash, she goes, yes. She smiles openly, like it's just, the wording is, she smiles and she goes, yes, on a leash, which is...
Yeah, but the thing is, with the dragon, there is no leash.
But there is no leash. Okay. Yeah, I also read about the domination band, and apparently it doesn't prevent the male from going crazy. So there's no, it's very dangerous because the taint is still very much effective. It's also way more restrictive than an Adam. Like every voluntary act has to be permitted by those wearing the bracelet. So walking, like anything except for breathing and blinking, basically. You have to ask for permission, or permission has to be given to do anything, to talk even.
How does that even work?
Billy.
The last thing is that after a time, it starts working in the opposite direction as well. Like the man can start controlling the 1 or 2 women that are holding the bracelets.
Well, doesn't sound like a good plan, Black Ajah.
It's also super, super old. It's like it was made during the breaking.
Because when
So
they
it
obviously
predates
wanted
the
to-
Adam.
Ah, so they created it to try and control those men going mad.
Probably.
Oh, it seemed like a good idea then. Bad idea now.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
You know what they say about rush development of anything? They tend to fail eventually.
All right. Yeah,
Say
shit
that?
eventually.
Cool.
All right.
Okay.
We're back to
Egeanin.
Egeanin. Yeah, there she is. She's entering her small house. So we've gone from palace to merchant's house to little wooden shack, where everyone's staying. Everyone's on different levels in the city.
We're talking about Egeanin now.
Yeah.
We're going to
Yes.
Like, you've got to choose a name here, man.
Egeanin.
Egeanin. She's Egeanin for me. So she
man.
enters the house and immediately knows that she is not alone. So there's lots of people just randomly waiting in other people's houses. And she goes to make some tea. She pretends, of course, she doesn't notice. Goes to make some tea. Behind the teapot, there's some loose bricks with a hole in the wall. And there's a crossbow in there, which she whips out and points across the room at some blonde dude who's leaning against the wall on the other side of the room. His accent is Sean-chan, and he shows her his plaque of the Imperial Justice. So he is what they call Seekers of the Truth, kind of like Sean-chan FBI, I imagine. But anyway, he is a slave. He's property, but has a lot of power. So that hierarchy in the Sean-chan has always confused me. And this is more of those confusing things. He's a slave, but he can tell her what to do.
Like a questioner of the white cloaks.
Yeah, except they're not slaves.
Questioner, what?
Inquisitor, they call them questioners, I think. But they were called inquisitors or whatever they're called. Oh, that the crook behind the sunburst and everything. Anyway, that's a different set of assholes to deal with. So he's got his plaque, like basically his police badge. I thought that's kind of cool. Like, show me your badge. He did, and she's like, look, these are difficult times. I don't fully trust who you are. Yeah, I need to see the ravens that are tattooed on your shoulders. So she makes him get half undressed as well to show her the tats. And she's like, all right, sorry about that. I just needed to be sure. He's a dangerous man. Like, those raven tattoos are, not everyone has them. Like I said, he's a slave, but he has the authority to execute her on sight. He doesn't even need approval. And like one of the lines is like, he could tell her to go and buy the rope to hang her with, that he's going to hang her with, and he would expect her to leave, go buy it, and come back. Like that's the authority that he has. Also, Suroth sent him. So more horribleness ensues. He's there to check on her progress. So Suroth had sent Egeanin and also other agents into the Westerlands to go and find all these Suldam and Adam and Damane and all these things, to go and collect them all up and kill them or bring them back or whatever the case may be. At this point, he asks her to draw out every map, make maps of every town, of every area, of every city, of every troops that's in the countryside, their movements, their numbers. Like, he makes it for hours and hours, draw out all of these maps. And at the end of it all, he just shoves them all in his pocket, tells her to send off the Adam that she has, by the way, it's on the table in a bag on one of the courier ships, and leaves. And she's like, did he just do all of that because I made him half undress? Like, he just wanted to flex his muscles, just to show that he's in charge. Because apparently all of these maps and things that she did, she's already done them and sent them off on the courier boats. Yeah. It's all done. So he's just being a dick again. But this entire time, she's had a Suldam downstairs in the basement, which is why she was so nervous around him and why she wanted him to get the fuck out of there as fast as possible. So in her basement is Bethaman, who you might recall is the one who found Rena and Seta, the two that Nynaeve and Elayne captured back in Falme and put the collars on and realized, oh shit, the two that started it all. So this is Bethaman. She found them. So now Egeanin has found her and also has her collared downstairs, but completely by accident. When she captured her, she had nothing to tie her up with except this collar, and she just slapped it on her and discovered by accident that, holy shit, this woman can channel or can learn to channel. But of course, she doesn't know.
But can she Can she control it? Can she put the
No.
bracelet on or not?
No.
She tried. She put the bracelet on and nothing happened. So she has no
So
channeling
she's
ability.
relieved. Yeah, she's
Yeah.
like, whew, I
Yeah.
can't channel.
I'm not one of
Or
those.
learn to.
Yes. So anyway, this now challenges everything that she's been taught about channelers and all of that, and that how they must be leashed and all of these things. She's known Bethaman for like 10 years because Bethaman is like begging her to let her go. He's like, I've known you for 10 years. So apparently, they're friends from work kind of a situation, And she decides that, no, of course, you're not going anywhere. I know far too little of what's happening right now. You're staying right here in this basement. And she heads upstairs again to just go over her thoughts alone. She's sitting upstairs. She's starting to question everything she's been taught about channelers. Like, could other Suldam channel? Does Suroth know that they can channel? Is this why she sent this mission out here? Ooh, you're on it, on the nose there. Is that why she wants them all captured and killed? And she even thinks to herself, like, oh, these are dangerous thoughts, dangerous thoughts. She's had the seeker of the truth in her house now. Suroth is playing games and she's on to Suroth. So she decides, like, look, she's got to find the truth. She's going to give Gelb the money that he wants because Gelb was begging for more money earlier. She'll just give it to him. She's even going to hire more guys like him. She has to up the ante now and she has to find all of these Sildam because she's going to test her theory and start collaring every single one that she finds to find out if this is actually the truth or not. And that is actually the end of the chapter and where we leave it.
Yeah, Bethaman ends up a novice in the tower.
I did not know that.
She's part of the whole crew with Matt and Lady Amathera, the Panarch, and Thom and Juilin, and like Valen Lucas' menagerie and all that sort of stuff. She's around there. She reluctantly starts learning how to channel from the other Aes Sedai, traveling with them, and eventually makes her way to the tower. And that's the last you hear of her as she goes to the tower to be a novice. So Bethaman has an okay end after it all.
Interesting arc. Did not know that.
I also always I force myself to remember the Seanchan accent that they keep talking about is like a Texan accent.
Yes.
That's what RJ has said.
Yeah.
And that is not the first accent I imagine. Obviously, purposefully done. But I'm just imagining these like samurai walking around speaking in a Texan drawl.
Yeah, I'm not even going to attempt a Texan accent on air.
No, don't.
Too many North American listeners who will beat the shit out of me.
You mentioned that Amathera has a bad time coming up because she refuses to sort of submit to the Seanchan, and they make her a Dako Val. She also is rescued and travels with I think the menagerie, Thom and Juilin anyway, because Amathera and Juilin fall in love.
Oh, right. Also forgotten that completely. Now, I was mentioning her hard time because, I mean, the Black Ajah does take control of the Panarch's palace and her. So, I mean, there's a shitty time coming much, much sooner. Then after that, it gets even worse. Yeah.
Yeah. Leandrin mentions that when she asked Carridin to take the Panarch's palace, he said it would take a couple days. And she says to the other Black Ajah sisters, it's going to take a couple days longer. That shouldn't make a difference. Now, I don't know, but Jody, does it end up making a difference? Like that it takes a couple days?
Not that I've read about.
Okay. So it's not like in those 3 days it takes Carridin to get in there, Nynaeve and Elayne dash in and steal the thing and vie.
Close.
Okay.
Because, no spoilers. We'll get there. I mean, no spoilers.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Okay. When's the last time we saw Egeanin before now?
In
Falme.
Falme, yes.
In what capacity? Because she hands Domon over to Turak. And then what? Do we see her during the Battle of Falme or like a point of view from her?
No, I don't think so.
She on a boat trying to get out of the harbor or anything? You don't hear from her since Turak.
Yeah, she just handed Domon over.
I think she headed back to that island out in the Arath Ocean, remember, where they are regrouping, where the Seanchan are regrouping, because she remembers, she thinks in one of these points is like the Athan Mir and how stubborn they are about taking the oaths, and she got a good look at their ships. So she's been fighting the Athan Mir and getting their, capturing their ships.
But that could have also happened during the same period that when she captured Bayle Domon.
When she captured Domon.
Yeah. So it's during that period of rounding up.
Yeah, but also she was sent by Suroth. She was sent by Suroth to go and hunt down these Suldam. and Suroth is on those islands. I forget what the name of those islands are.
I mean, was she sent personally? Was she sent a message? These
I think she
seekers
was
are running
sent
around giving
personally
orders.
there's boats coming from that island, courier
Yeah.
boats sending information and money and back and forth and supplies and stuff. So that there's a thing happening, a concerted, planned
I
effort.
couldn't remember what the last thing was that she was busy doing that we read about. And I think the last time I can remember seeing her on page was when she hands Domon over to Turak.
I think that's the last time that I saw her as well. But in
That's
between
book
then,
2.
I assume she's been sent back. She fled with the rest of the Seanchan. They regrouped, and now she's been sent back on this mission. Finding out shit she's not comfortable with.
Just finding out the dark secrets of their kin.
The reason I mentioned Carridin earlier, thinking about it's been 2 months since he's heard about one of his family members being carried off from the wedding or something, which means it would have happened, even before that, before he got the news. He keeps thinking it's been 2 months since my last report. He's waiting for someone to come for him. That's why he immediately assumes Liandrin is there to kill him.
Yeah.
He's like, fuck, it's been 2 months. I haven't done anything. I haven't heard any more family members going missing. I'm about to walk into a room with a fade or something. And then blam, there's Liandrin.
Maybe that's why we just went straight for the brandy to get on the piss.
Yeah, man.
Yes. I mean, he's spiraling. The fact that Liandrin brings up the Dark Friend social and how she says specifically the Forsaken Bayle Domon or Ishamal or whoever showed them the faces of the boys just again reminds me of how weird it was that Liandrin asked Rand to, who are you? Like, name yourself in the dungeon of Feldara. Remember when she comes down there and she grabs him with the power, she's like, what is your name?
Oh, right.
Do you remember
you're
that?
bringing up old shit now, Moritz.
Yeah, bro. Come on. This is fresh in our minds, right? In the beginning of the Great Hunt 2 books ago. When Rand's busy scrubbing that message off the door, Liandrin comes, where the guys were killed and Fane escaped and trollocs were in there and the Dark Prophecy is scrawled on the walls.
Yeah.
Liandrin comes in there, traps Rand, tries to make him say who he is when Moiraine arrives.
Yeah, but maybe she didn't recognize it. She wasn't expecting him there. It was dark. She just saw some dude. She grabbed him, like, what the hell? And then when, I don't know, I'm just trying to make excuses for her.
You love Liandrin.
Dark friend.
Dark friend. Don't be surprised if you have a dragon's fang on your door tomorrow morning. My last note is Carridin is utterly trapped. Idiot.
Fuck him. I mean, you make your big dark friend bed, you've got to slumber now in it. Deal with it.
Did you guys also think it was weird that the Black Ajah sisters would be referring to the Forsaken as Forsaken and not Chosen?
I did not think it was weird. Because only the Forsaken refer to themselves as Chosen. Everybody in the world thinks of them as Forsaken. I mean, nobody.
Forsaken.
I don't think anybody else knows that name.
Well,
Right.
I'll be honest, it didn't cross my mind. But what is crossing my mind is that Liandrin and the cronies, they want to have a piece of the pie. They want to have a little bit of the power pie.
Typical,
Well,
this is like the common denominator for Dark Friends, right? Ambitious to a fault. Like they just want greedy, selfish, ambitious, hubris, self-importance. Like all those things apply to all of them.
Well, that's why they're dark friends. That's the promise. Serve me and you'll get all that stupid shit that you want.
Before Bethamon goes to the tower to learn to be a novice, she is actually found or returned to Seanchan, and she goes back to training Damane. And a seeker comes to her and asks her if she knows Egeanin, and she lies and she says that they're great friends, when in fact they had some level of knowledge of each other, but she plays up their friendship. And this seeker asks Bethamon to rekindle that friendship and spy on Egeanin. But when she goes to Egeanin, she comes clean and she admits all of that and then jumps ship completely from the Seanchan. So Bethamon, this random Sildam sitting in the basement, has like this crazy arc, like going back to Seanchan, back this way, ending up at the tower. Yeah. I'm excited for that now. I'm going to really, really try and keep track of all these names, right? Like the first couple of times you read the books, it's just so many names, so many Aes Sedai specifically, so many channelers to keep track of. But yeah, I'm going to keep an eye on Bethamon. Egeanin believes that women broke the world, all Aes Sedai. So in Seanchan, They don't make a distinction between men and women channeling and breaking the world. They're just all Aes Sedai, and therefore, and this is probably a holdover from Arthur Hawkwing and his opinion of Aes Sedai, and his son going across the ocean and leashing the Aes Sedai there to sort of quote unquote save the world from another breaking.
One of her thoughts is that she was taught that if you don't leash Aes Sedai, or you don't leash these women, that they would make you their slaves. They would take control. And she wonders, I wonder why that never happened on this side of the ocean. Strange that didn't happen, yeah.
Little cracks in her beliefs starting to show, and you can see the path to her turning
enlightenment.
Correct. She mentions at one point, if she's caught, that she will die the death of 10,000 tears. I looked that up.
Okay, I'm sure you did.
Because the blood, by definition, can't have their blood spilled. So when they're executed, they can't be like decapitated or anything like that, or stabbed or anything. The death of 10,000 tears is when a member of the blood is executed by putting them in a silk sack and hanging them from a specific tower until their body and the sack rots away before it's removed. They're just left up there in a silk bag.
Well, they are the blood. They're not going to be put in a cotton bag. Beneath them.
No, that won't do. It's just another cool example of this weird sort of like double think, like the importance and the value of a person, like you were saying, Joe, like with the slaves, with authority, like there's this weird twisted sense of honor in their society that, Egeanin ascribes to. Like, she thinks she would go and buy the rope if the Seeker tells her to go buy a rope with which she would be hung. Crazy, these fucking Sean Chan. Anyway, that's enough from me. We can now move along to chapter 39, which is called A Cup of Wine. Just one cup. Vili, why don't you tell us about this one cup of wine?
Now we are back at the docks and at the westernmost peninsula of this very geographically inaccurate place. I've bit my tongue about these maps for a long time, but they are shit. Like, rivers don't make peninsulas like that. It doesn't work like that. It's wrong.
But male channelers do.
No. It's even the breaking of the world was thousands of years back. There would have been a semblance of natural erosion and shaping of the landscape to form natural bays. It is unnatural. It's wrong. And fix the maps, please. Anyway, rant over. They are in the harbor. Elayne has got her bundles already together with her, and they're saying their goodbyes to Queenie and Queenie. And what's her sister's name? Join? Queenie and Joiny? Joran, wasn't it? Joran. Yes. Yeah. They do their little goodbye, which is a nice little kiss on the finger, touching.
And then putting it up the other person's nose.
And no lips.
It's a wet willy in the ear.
But by now, Elayne has gotten used to the strange wear and sort of almost unnatural to see them now wear blouses or shirts as they are in sight of land. And she asked them what they will be doing next. And their mission now is to firstly allow her husband to trade. And then from there, they going from port to port to spread that Kurumoris rand. Their mission has changed now. They were going complete opposite direction that they were. They then get all their things together. Nynaeve, Julian Sandar, and Thom, and make their way down the gangplank. And they're not even out of the docks, and someone calls out their name, like, no one will know us in Tanchico. And there's Bayle Domon. Nynaeve, I know you.
Hey, everyone, it's Nynaeve.
Look. Hey, guys, look, it's Nynaeve. So, well, pleasantries exchanged. Bayle Domon is now very much looking the part of a wealthy merchant, and he's not even ashamed to say it, he's a smuggler. and he says, like,
I
look,
knew it. I remembered him being a smuggler. So when we met him originally, I was like, isn't he also a smuggler? He wasn't at the time, not necessarily, but
no,
very
he's a
much
smuggler.
now.
He's just he's gone open about it now. I've got enough wealth to be a smuggler now and claim it. Plus, again, look at where he's living. Tarabon at the moment is pretty much just violent villainy all around. So suits. They are looking for an inn, and he's like, no, don't worry, I've got this sorted for you. It's going to be quite difficult to get rooms. So the city is overflooded with refugees, and they keep going now. Needless to say, Julian Sandar is seeing Elayne in Bayle Domon, and it's already, you can see the tension over there. It's
From both of them.
not just one-sided; it is both-sided. That is, there is a true, real deep rivers that run in that.
A blood feud, if you will.
A blood feud, if you will. Yes. Now the new inn that they take into is called the Three Plum Court, but it's not really three.
I like how you turn sideways for each word in that title. The Three Plum Court.
Can't talk away from the mic, man. It's too little space in my little pod.
Great.
So Bayle himself lived there as well, it seems, and he's got he knows the innkeeper quite well. Her name is Rendra, and she's got 2 rooms available for Nynaeve and Elayne to share one, as long as they get the bigger bed. One Elayne's thoughts were, because man, Nynaeve puts her elbows out when she sleeps. And
the woman is free with her elbows.
the woman, and she's liberal with her elbows. They do their normal pleasantries and all of that, and sit down for dinner. And there's a lot of talk around the dinner table about what their mission is. Now, after dinner, Nynaeve asks Rendra for some ink and some paper, and she then supplies Bayle and the rest of them with the descriptions of all of the Black Ajah names. So everything basically they had in those folders or that files before they left the tower, say this is what we know. Now Julian, being the thief taker that he is, has got this in his head mapped out. He works at night, so when that little party wraps up, he's just basically hits the roads and he go and does what thief takers do. The Bayle, on the other hand, was going to, and the request from Nynaeve's side was to enlist his men to kind of keep, this is the type of riffraff that pick up all sailors, call them riffraff, but it's the type of people that will pick stuff up. So he will get it from his angle. So now there's already a little bit of a network forming around them. And Thom, on the other side, quizzes Bayle more on the nobles. He's going to use his skill Dias Daimar. Like, this is where he's stronger in. He's going to work the noble sphere and get influence there. So that's almost as if these 3 people that Nynaeve and Elayne have bumped into is just sorted everything for them, like doing all the footwork on the ground.
They're perfect for the job. Yeah.
All of absolutely.
Diverse skill set.
3 very diverse, different skill sets.
I love that. I loved how Julian and Thom took the totally different approaches, but both, because you know them, are effective.
No, completely. Look at how well Thom did it for Rand in Tia.
Yeah, in 2 weeks or however long they were there, he was sorting Rand right out.
In on it. This is the nice part as well, where Bayle isn't afraid to throw around the fact that he's been made a good amount of money smuggling to that area. So, but he also shares that Riandra shares that he's got his own soup kitchen. He's feeding the riffraff of this place himself. So that's what's like,
with some Sean Chan money.
He tries to act tough, like, I'm not being charitable. It's better than paying the tax on the money anyway, or something like that.
He's no bloody
tax.
hero.
Yeah. It's got a
Just
little
like that.
dash of matte there.
Yeah, because Elayne is quite taken by how desperate the area is looking. Nynaeve decides to call it a night. She's going upstairs, and Elayne is going to watch Thom do a little bit of glee-mannery in the common room. Always worth getting some coin in a full inn. And Thom starts with reciting stories that goes from one to the other. And Elayne is just having one cup of wine, and she's still thinking like, how good am I mixing in with the commoners? I'm sitting in an inn, drinking some wine. It's having gay old time. Eventually, start slapping on the table in chorus, and little known to her, her wine is being continuously topped up by the young waiter, who is obviously got a little fancy for her. He's working his angle. Don't worry, we'll just get her on the sauce. But when the night's finished, it's Elayne tries to get up, and she can't. She falls back on her ass on the chair. It's like, oh no, I must be suffering the same as Nynaeve, who had to go and lie down earlier because she's suffering from the effects of coming off a boat, which I'm well accustomed to spending a lot of time fishing on a boat. You get off a boat after being on it for a couple of days. You walk on land. Land moves. It's weird.
Yes.
She's convinced, no, I must just be having the same reaction. So she goes up to the second story where Nynaeve's and her room is, but keeps going to the third story where Thom's room is, and goes into Thom's bedroom and grabs him by the moustache. And she says, I did this as a girl. I know this. I sat on your knee and grabbed your moustache, and my mother was standing behind you laughing. And he's like,
Busted.
Like, okay, it's coming out. And then the whole thing starts coming out, and she is acting like a little drunkle, like remembering and then placing it together. It's like she's really thinking through her mouth at this stage, saying, well, all right, so you and my mom slept together. It's like, eventually to the point which is like, oh, well, it's my mom and Gareth Bain, and it's my mom and you, and my mom and this Gabriel guy. It's like, my mom just go with everyone. And then she gets slapped by Thom. Quite vicious. No, not viciously, just
viciously, no.
she gets slapped. She felt it, she realized it, and then she pulled the daughter heir of Andor on him, and Thom put her straight back in her place. It's like, you do not speak of more guys like that. Like, he has got a very high
woman.
She's a good woman. There's even queens need a little bit of loving. Freaky deakies need love too, man. So he then tells her, like, look, you need to go to bed. But before she leaves, she grabs at his mustache again. She says she remembers he made her laugh and her mom was happy, or something of the sort.
Yeah.
So she goes down to find Nynaeve, who is now getting ready. She wants to report back to Green. That's been a good couple of nights of them going to the World of Dreams, where they have not found Egwene there. And this was since the last time that Egwene got pulled so viciously out of the World of Dreams by a miss. So they also kind of like wondering what's happening. But again, Elayne said, look, she did say that it's going to be a bit difficult. So, but she's like, anyway, I should be going. And she's like, before we get there, before that all happens, Nynaeve realizes how drunk she is. Like, and
Quite.
it's like, quite. And she asks, like, how could you do this? What possessed you? I might expect a full man to drink until he can stand, but you, and tonight. She's like, I only had one cup. And then Nynaeve grabs a picture side, like a big bucket of water, and she's like, look at yourself. So, and she looks in at the reflection. As she's looking in, she dunks her head and starts drowning her in this.
Some Mother G styles.
Yeah.
Mother G styles. And to the point where Elayne actually starts like swallowing water and get up, and then calmly Nynaeve gets another sort of pitcher or bowl for her to spew every meal she's ever eaten in her life. So it was a little bit more than just one
Holding
cup.
her hair back.
Oh, it's like there. We've never been there.
No.
No. But she then says, like, look, we need to do this. We need to check in. And she's like, well, I should go. And Eve's like, you can't go.
No.
Firstly, when you go to sleep, you're just going to pass out. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Secondly, you can't even touch the power. And then she's like, oh, well, what about you? And then, too, that anger that Nynaeve obviously has got her glowing in the glow of Sidon. Sidar.
Sidar.
Sidar. Glow of Sidar, sorry. Anyway, needless to say, agreement was made, and Nynaeve is going to go. Grabs the stone Terangrial. She gets into a sleeping gown. Reference made of Lan's ring that hangs between her bosom again, and she's like, okay, I'm popping in there. And she does. She first finds herself very scantily clothed, still struggles to control, or, well, as both of them do, their clothing. But the feeling of being watched is intense. It gets her thinking about the waste and Rhuidean and where is Egwene? She's not here. And she finds herself, by thinking about Rhuidean, to be at Rhuidean. And sort of standing on the slopes and looking out over and sees the fog and sees the towers. She's like, what's the city doing? Like, this must be the waste. And there's a man walking by the fog and sort of poking it and prodding it in a blue coat. And who is that?
Asmodean.
Is that Asmodean? Okay. And she's like, but at the same time, Brigitte sort of like, what are you doing here? Like, you shouldn't be here. This is dangerous. Like, she just keeps bumping into people in the world of dreams that's poking at the wrong places. And Nynaeve then thinks to get away there, and she's back in Emansfield. So she ran from one set of dangers at the one straight to probably the worst person to run into in the world of dreams. And there she sees Brigitte. Did Brigitte jump there? I didn't quite get that.
She followed her there, I think.
She followed her there. Nynaeve wanted to speak to her, and sort of round the corner in over the bridge, the footbridge in Emansfield, and up, and she runs into who she thought was Lan. And Lan, actually being Slayer, looks so much like Lan because of the family. Isom. And he shoots an arrow at her, and she dives. And she's like screaming to try and get out of the dream. And the arrow just sort of nicked her on the shoulder, the arm. And she wakes up in bed bleeding and screaming, and Elayne almost falls off the chair, or does fall off the chair. And that's where that ends. And she's pretty much in hysterics about it looked like Lan. It was Lan. It was. She doesn't know any of this, obviously. But yeah, World of Dreams is not serving them well at the moment. I think they should maybe stay out of it.
A lot of shit going on in there that they have no idea about. The heroes, so Brigitte being there, Slayer being there, the Forsaken are there. I mean, the wise ones are right to tell them, guys, just don't hang out here. This is not a good place for you to be. And then they just go bungling in head first the whole time.
Yeah, well, look, it's a messy place to go and mess around in, especially if you've got absolutely no experience. If you can't hold your garb, you shouldn't be there.
Yeah, if you can't keep one outfit on.
They're trying to use Teleandriod as like a Zoom call, just like,
Yes.
like, dudes, literally anything else, even if it takes longer, would be better. This is for...
It's like being on a Zoom call connected to an electric chair that you're sitting in, and if the call fails, you die.
Sort of, yes.
It's kind of like young kids today just hanging out on the internet. A world full of predators.
They are forsaken.
Yeah. Now,
whoa, that turned dire real quick. Terrible thing for three dads to be agreeing upon.
Next morning, there is the mother of all hangovers to be had.
That's right.
By Elayne. Just one cup has gotten her wishing she was rather dead or someone could decapitate her. Like you felt a couple of episodes ago, Mo.
Jesus. Yes. And in my not too distant past on a fairly regular basis.
They've got their morning breakfast and the Juilin pulls in, sort of walking in from a night out on the town, and he's already started picking up information and sort of explaining. It was down onto the description of the one Black Ajah Sedai that's got the white streaks in the hair. And they sort of like, yeah, you got to be careful. You can't just go around talking about this woman. We could be found. He's like, look, I'm a thief taker, and I have been a thief taker my whole life. Let me do what I do. I talk of looking for a lost loved one who he just knows how to word it with the right type of people. It's not people that...
His method is actually he never asks a question. He only talks. And then he lets other people offer up information that they think is relevant or similar.
Yes.
Which is genius.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's never asking.
No. Never. But he gets the information.
And the odd black eye. He walks in that morning with a black eye.
Mm-hmm. Looking pretty rough. His hair's not neat.
Yeah, every morning that those guys return, they come with a limp or a black eye or a cut or something.
Hey, doing the hard yards, man. Thom is of the opinion that, look, let us do this. You girls just stay in the inn. You stay put, and you stay out of sight because you are known to them. We aren't. That leads Elayne to want to argue, but to her surprise, Nynaeve's like, "Yep, absolutely right. We will be recognized." And then Thom thinks like,
"What?
That was easy."
Where's Nynaeve? What have you done with her?
And then Nynaeve's like, "But I have a plan." Yeah. And she'd in the interim spoken to the innkeeper, Rendra, and asked her, like, after she brought her honey porridge, well, did you get the other supplies that we spoke about? And she's like, yep, got the majority of it sorted, and they are going to be donned as Tara. Now I'm sitting in the same predicament as you, Jody.
They're going to be a bunch of boners.
They're going to be
boners.
Tarabonai people.
That makes it better. Again, foolproof disguises. Is that what we're going for?
This is, look, is it going to be any better than Min in the tower, dressed up as Almendrada? I don't know. They don't have a good rap with disguises thus far, but they're getting braided and they're getting dressed up. Elayne is a little bit excited about the idea of dressing as a woman of the area because
nicely done.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that is pretty much where it ended off. Breakfast table, mornings of Leandrin, new dresses and braids, and moving on.
Is Elayne having a Bloody Mary for breakfast?
No, she had a concoction for breakfast, man.
Bloody Mary. I'm telling you, that's what that concoction was.
True.
It wasn't described as a nice red drink with some vodka.
Oh, because they don't have tomatoes.
No.
Because later on you read about in the in Cold Rock's Hold, I've read ahead, Rand's describing some weird fruit that's too red for an apple on a short little bush that they grow. And it's like he's talking about tomatoes. And it's like he doesn't recognize what it is. So there's no Bloody Marys in the Westlands.
Shame.
That's why Egwene's having such a hard time. Elayne.
Joe, did you have anything you wanted to elaborate on in that stretch?
No, I think my Bloody Mary comment was about all I have to offer of
the most
substance.
The most important. I thought it was cool that Elayne and Joran seemed to have bonded on the boat, and that was again just to me typical of Elayne. Like she's so open and welcoming to like Rand and everyone she meets. It's like, oh, cool, let's be friends, which is cool. Elayne also has a thought that Domon almost looks as if he recognized Thom, which of course he did. Thom has traveled on the Spray. They've got a storied history. So I was wondering, like, what does Domon think of Thom? Because the last time they traveled together was with Rand and Matt, and they were being attacked by trollocs, and like, you know, everything was hectic. And now suddenly Thom is back, and he's traveling with his 2 Aes Sedai and a thief taker, and they're looking for Black Ajah members. Like, Domon must be.
Who the fuck is this guy?
Even said that his interactions with Thom are obviously by comparison far more congenial than they are with Juilin, to the point where when they're talking to Domon, Juilin has to funnel his questions through Thom.
Yes.
He doesn't ask Domon directly, he asks Thom to ask the question. And even then Domon is like, you know, reluctant to answer. It's
like a bunch of high school girls like having a feud, you know. Like, you can tell her that I said.
But it fits. It fits the cultural milieu that they've set here.
Well, look, in the defenses of both Bayle and Juilin in this, they're not sitting and arguing across the table. They are being civil about it. It's kind of like, you there, I'm here. We just don't talk. We'll channel information via Thom. I mean, at the end of the day, the 3 of them are there to help the girls. So
they get shit done. They don't let it interfere with their work. They're professional in that regard. I mean, they find information.
Yeah, they are effective. And then I thought, like, is it worth bringing up slapping again? Like Thom just hauling off and slapping Elayne.
No.
Seems to be common practice in this world, so let's just chalk that up to culture then. I mean, Aiel's going to slap Perrin, Thom's going to slap Elayne, girls slap each other. There's a lot of slapping going on. I guess it's better than stabbing, so we'll take what we can get.
There's a lot of stabbing going on as well.
Way more decapitations and skinnings and stuff, so slaps are pretty low end of the spectrum.
A god in Tanchico just got stabbed in the eye by Leandrin, like literally.
Yeah,
5 minutes
let's not talk
ago.
about that. Yeah, let's talk about Thom slapping Elayne.
Far worse.
But yeah, that's it from me as well. So, I mean, I'm happy to move along if you guys are.
Sure.
Rightio then. This brings us to our final chapter for this episode, chapter 40, called Hunter of Trollocs. And Joe, you were quite excited about this one in our last episode, so take it away.
Excited isn't the word I would use, but yes, I did want
Anxious?
to. I wanted to. Yeah, there you go. That's a much better word. I did want to address this because previously we heard about like, oh, now we hunt trollocs, and it sounds so cool. And then you read this chapter, Hunter of Trollocs, and you're like, oh, rad, it's going to go hunt trollocs. But we will see what happens with that. So
yes,
we join up with Perrin and the gang. It's been 6 days since they were rescued, or since they rescued the Luhans and the Corthans from the White Cloaks, and the storm that Verin had called to cover the escape just kind of got out of hand. It's been raining cats and dogs on and off now. And there's been like 3 massive showers, and they've been living it rough in the rain because at this point he's sitting under the trees next to the graves of his family. He's back on his farm. And all the water is dripping off the leaves. Still, like everything is still soaking wet, and they've roughed it now for 6 days. I think this is just like a prelude to the Bowl of Winds scenario coming up, because Verin called a storm, but it got out of her control because the weather's so fucked up at this moment. I think this is like the first little sign that I recognized. So yeah, like I said, he's sitting under the trees near the graves of his family. Daniel approaches him from behind. And Perrin knows it's him immediately without even looking, as he can hear their footsteps and smell them. And they still think it's like, damn, Like they all try to sneak up on him. There's been a couple of times now, and they're still not used to the fact that he knows it's them. Like, who is this guy? Like, they hold him in such high regard. Anyway, he's come to report that Fael and Luke have arrived. They've returned. So he makes his way back to their camp of around, there's like 50 men in the camp now. There's also a bunch of guys up in the trees in their brown cloaks. They were their farmer's clothes with bows and arrows and stuff. And Perrin even says it's difficult for him to find some of them up in the trees, even with his eyes. So he's got like a nice, well-trained little army going. So it's growing as they've been traveling around now. They've brought in more and more recruits. He's even sent some away. And he's still got around between 50 and 70 of them. So Fael had gotten the rest of the villagers and the farmers and everybody that they had picked up along the way, as you recall, back to Emmett's Field. And now this is the first time that she's come back to meet him after dropping everybody off and making sure everyone's all right. And they haven't seen each other now since that night of that rescue. Loyal has sent a message along with her. Alana apparently disappeared twice since then, since they've last seen them, to his surprise and even to the surprise of her warder, Ivan. Now, it's all we get, but I thought it might be noteworthy to mention that she's been disappearing. So I don't know what she's up to. Some no good Isidinus.
Or maybe she's going for a cry in the forest.
Yeah,
maybe.
I thought about it.
But Ivan would have noticed her pain, would have felt it. But he's surprised.
Maybe it's constant.
Mm.
I don't know. I'm throwing Alana bones, and I don't like her, so
yeah. But look,
stop.
I also thought like maybe she's just depressed or whatever. But Ivan doesn't mention it. Like if Ivan's surprised that she's disappeared, he has the bond. He knows what she's feeling.
We've done the research now. Well, I say you, Moritz, done the research. She's not bound by a faction. She walks the middle line. She's a bit of a fence sitter. So let's throw the chick a bone. And she just lost her warder. She's a green. She's in mourning. She is acting irrational, and just cut her some slack.
Yeah, I think it's more than just sadness or depression. Like I think her mind is fracturing. Like I think she's really having like mental issues,
PTSD,
something like that. Yeah,
maybe she just went and got on the grog.
Maybe
Ivan would know that too.
Yeah, Ivan would get drunk through the pond. Yeah, maybe that's why he's surprised. Oh God, I'm drunk. Perrin is actively ignoring Luke because remember, Luke came with. Keeping his voice low, he doesn't trust him. Fael asks him, like, why don't you trust Luke? And he's like, well, look, Luke was at 5 of the farms either on the day that they were attacked or the day before they were attacked. Like every time a farm gets attacked, Luke is there, either on the very single day, the same day, or the day before. He smells bad. He smells like a duus. I don't trust him at all. There's even a mention, like he's standing there amongst the men, the young men from Imsfield, and he's looking at them like down down his nose at them, and he even smells like he is not even part of humanity anymore. That's Perrin chalks it up to his super arrogance, but he literally isn't a human anymore. So that's why he feels that way, like he's transcended that. But Perrin just thinks of it as arrogance and untrustworthiness. Fael also mentions that she's heard amongst the chatter that Lord Luke has hinted at a claim to one of the borderland thrones. And that was the whole thing. What happened when he ran away, Isim and all of that. Like it was staged by his mother. There was a coup staged by his mother to get him in power. So like he's still carrying that torch.
That's what caused the entire fall of Melkir.
Exactly. And he's still carrying on about it. Like even chatting to Two Rivers people about it. He just can't let it go. We also learned that Emmons Field is bursting at the seams because there's now hundreds and hundreds of extra people there. Not only the people that they picked up from the farms, but word has spread. So other places have heard what Lord Perrin Goldeneyes has warned, and they have also packed up and moved to Emmons Field with their sheep and their cattle and their everything. So apparently Emmons Field is now like a city, basically just stuffed with people and teeming with people. And Perrin's like, what are they calling me? And I was like, yeah, man, there it is. Lord Golden Eyes. So yeah, she's telling him like there'll be stories written about you and everything. He's like, oh God, I don't want that. So apparently we get a little history lesson as well. 2 days After the initial rescue from the White Cloaks, they had come upon the smoking ruins of a farmhouse and buried the bodies that they found there, and then tracked the trollocs who did it. So this is their first encounter. He's remembering back now with this new band of people after they've now saved the Luhans. They've got these young Emmonsfielders and Watch Hillans. I don't know what you call people from Watch Hill, and all these different people. Anyway, like their first raid on a trolloc camp, and he's remembering it. So anyway, they found the trollocs quite easily. Had no fade, so they were no sentries. They were sleeping. Everything was disorganized. And actually, they were quite easy to dispose of. Most of the trollocs were killed in their sleep under their blankets. The young Two Rivers men had wanted to celebrate afterwards until they saw what was inside the trollocs' cookpot. Many of them retching, some of them weeping. Perrin had to go and dig a hole and bury everything in one hole, the contents, because there was no way of knowing who belonged to what
belonged to whom.
Yeah, just like, oh dear God.
One thing that I don't understand, why do the trollocs even cook anything?
Look, they're not.
You'd have to ask a trolloc.
Yeah,
you're not completely without taste, Billy.
Billy, come on, man. They like a little barbecue sauce with it, maybe salt and pepper.
They're sophisticated.
These are sophisticated trollocs.
Oh, Narg-like cuisine.
Narga's discerning palate.
They got little blocks of pecorino cheese with them and all kinds of stuff. Yeah. Extra virgin
Pairs
olive
well
oil
with the white wine.
Being gross, people. These are human beings we're talking about.
And
people that they know from the area as well. So yeah, why did they cook them? Because they can, I suppose. They have time. I suppose if they don't have time, they'll just eat them raw. If not, they'll cook them.
They cook them on the off chance that someone finds a pot of it and can be repulsed by it.
Yes, exactly. It's a long con. So anyway, they were very, very stoked that they won this. But of course, the reality kicks in that, this is not something to be happy about. The next day, the day after this, so now on the third day since after the rescue, they find another camp, and this time with a fade and sentries. But Gaul took care of those, the Aiel as well, took care of all the sentries and the fade as well, and the Two River Bows took care of the rest. Again, no casualties. So their first two raids on trollocs camps, even with the fade and sentries in the second camp, nobody from Emmonsfield died, none of the guys died, and they took out all of these trollocs and a fade. Granted, they did have Lord Perrin Goldeneyes with them and 3 Aiel, which make a huge difference to these kind of things. So anyway, that's just what he's been thinking. Now, after chatting with Fael, they head over to where Luke is talking with the others, telling them about what's happening in Emmonsfield, how well they've secured it, but how they could use more men. And he's telling them stories again, like, if you want to come back, it's so good to put your feet up in the inn. Oh, Mistress Elvira has the best bread ever. And he's telling them stories about how comfortable he's been living, not helping Perrin's cause at all. He also says that they could use more men. They could use more backs there to help them out to build more more fortifications and things. Perrin declines. They are hunting trollocs. Just then, speak of the devil, Gaul, Bane, and Chiad come pushing through the crowd. This entire time they've been scouting around the area, and no one has seen them, obviously. They have picked up trolloc tracks. They've got to say about 30 trollocs in the waterwood, and they are easy prey. They didn't see anybody, and they know where they are heading, and they've got a plan. We can go and ambush them and kill them all. And there's a little line here as well, like everybody's still so like, oh, look, Aiel, the young guys are so taken aback by them. They still believe that there still must be hundreds of Aiel out there. Just like, we only see these 3 because the others are so well hidden. And Perrin just leaves it because, if it makes them feel better that there's 100 Aiel out there, I'm just going to let them believe it.
Yeah.
It's not hurting anyone. So we'll just, it keeps their morale up. So we'll do it anyway. So Perrin asks Will if he'd prefer to go back to Emmonsfield and share a kiss with a girl or whatever, or if he's willing to, or, while the trollocs have dinner tonight, or you want to go back and do that, because he's been listening to Lord Luke talking about how comfy everything is at the town, like trying to goad him. But of course, they all agree that they are going to hunt trollocs instead. Nobody thinks about going back. And I've written here again, Taishar Manetherin. Even these guys are like, fuck it. It's been 6 days, but we are still on it. We are with you, Lord Perrin Golden Eyes. So Luke has been trying to get people to leave. Dickhead. And Perrin looks at him as well and goes, well, Lord Luke, why don't you join us and show us how it's done? You great hunter, you great lord. And Luke declines again, saying, no, well, I'd love to join you guys, but Emmons Field needs me. There's still defenses to be built and whatnot. And he jumps on his horse and leaves. Aiel remains, crucially. And also crucially, Perrin doesn't say anything about it. She looks at him, expecting a fight. And he's like, cool. Thanks for joining. He's just happy to see her. So again, I think we can confirm that whole tiff that they had is now well in the past. So with Lord Luke gone, they get started on their plan. Their plan is to get ahead of the Trollocs. Gaul is like, yep, this is their route they're taking. They didn't see us. If we can sneak, we have time still left in the day. If we can sneak ahead of them, we can lay an ambush for this place that they'll probably, set up camp for the night. And once they're asleep, we can kill them because it's going to be much, much easier because they do have a fade with them as well. When Gaul says it's easier, Perrin thinks, yeah, easier for these Two Rivers bowmen, you mean, not for you guys, because it doesn't make any difference to you whatsoever. These guys are sleeping or awake. You're going to take them. So they start breaking camp, ready to move. Perrin realizes at this point that there's up to almost 70 men, because when they get the guys down from the trees that were standing sentry, there's almost 70 that have joined. So he's got quite a nice little army going on here with himself, like a good band at least. Enough to kill 30 Trollocs in their sleep quite easily, he thinks to himself. Getting a bit ahead of ourselves there, aren't we, Perrin? So after a couple of hours of marching, they reach a clearing around a pond where the Trollocs would most likely set up camp. So they split up and get into their positions, and everyone goes into the trees and behind the rocks. And they spread out into their ambush positions, and they sit and wait. And there's absolute silence. Perrin doesn't hear anything except silence descending. The squirrels stop chirping, and the birds stop chirping, and he realizes, shit's coming, but he can't smell anything of Trollocs until the wind shifts just slightly and comes from behind him, and he catches that foul stench on the air and realizes, shit, the Trollocs are behind us. They have been ambushed themselves, and the Trollocs attack. There are screams and shouting. Perrin immediately takes an arrow in the side. He says it's like a small spear, the size of it. He kills that Trolloc that shot him with his own bow, but before that Trolloc dies, he lets off that arrow, and it hits Perrin in the side. Perrin breaks off the shaft and continues fighting as 2 more Trollocs attack him. He starts screaming for Adora, for Dacel, for my mother, burn you, my mother. At one point, he realizes that he's already killed those 3 Trollocs, and he's just standing there hacking at the body of a Trolloc that is already dead, just smashing it with his axe. Tenderizing them, yes, for the other cookpots later on. At this point, he snaps out of his rage and starts calling for everybody to regroup to him, like, to me, 2 rivers, 2 rivers. But now there's fewer screams and fewer shouts coming out of the woods. But he does hear some cries of the 2 rivers, but no one comes. And he's completely alone, except for a fade. And he's screaming for Aiel as well. And as this fade comes up to him, he tells him, your Aiel was delicious. And I think, oh, dude, don't say that. You're just going to make him angry.
Wrong approach.
Wrong approach. He attacks, like Perrin, that is, screaming, runs into the fade. And he has the fade on the defensive immediately. The fade, you can see the concentration switch on this fade's face. He's still lightning fast, but he's just deflecting blows. But Perrin is injured, and he knows he won't be able to keep this up for much longer. And just then he slips in the mud and exposes himself. But before the fade can kill him, a blurring blade comes out of nowhere and semi-beheads this thing and falls to the ground. And Ivan is there to save the day. Thank God for the warders. How many times have your butt been saved by a warder? Alanna apparently had sent him to find Perrin just in time. Again. Come back. Put a pin in that. We'll talk about it. Just in time to save his bloody neck. He tells Perrin that, look, shit has gone down. Your plan doesn't look like it's been good. I've been in these woods a while. There were at least 100 Trollocs, and they were not attached, or linked to the dead Fade, which would have been great if we had killed this Fade. So the Trollocs had known that they were coming, had reinforced, and had not linked themselves with the Fade.
And are still coming.
And are still coming. Perrin calls again for the Two Rivers men to rally to him. And eventually we see these guys, shocked faces, blood smeared, some helping other injured men, limping through the forest. They start coming out of the trees. Even Gaul is limping at this point. And all he says was, they did not come as we expected. Just flat deadpan. Aiel is also there. Eventually, he's relieved to see that Aiel comes out of the woods, and she's got around half of the horses that they originally had with them. At one point, no more men come out of the forest, and Perrin is forced to count, and there are 27 men missing. And I say men, but these are boys. I mean, if you think they're around Perrin's age, maybe younger, maybe older, I'm saying like 17 to 21, maybe. That's children, man. 27 of them. He asks if all the wounded were accounted for. Like, did you leave anyone outside? And Ban Alcine says only the dead are left out there. 27. This really hit hard for me. Hit home so badly. 27 of these Two Rivers kids that he grew up with, you know, and then, man, I'm not going to talk, we will deal with the consequences of it later in future chapters, but they are. Perrin orders all the wounded on the horses and then decides to walk for himself. Aiel, of course, reminds him, like, listen, dude, you are one of those wounded. Get on the fucking horse. And with the help of Ivan, they start to retreat. But they do decide that, look, there's still trollocs out there. Everybody that can stand and can walk, knock an arrow in your bow. You've got to look as threatening as you can. And for the first mile of their retreat, he can smell trollocs flanking them on the sides through the brush. But they don't attack, thankfully. Of course, this is because they're a bunch of cowards. They've killed a lot of them. The Fade is dead. So now the trollocs are, you know, they're not as brave as they would be, or not as threatened by the Fade. So they don't, and the group looks, I would imagine by like one guy, they look threatening enough for the trollocs to decide not to attack them, and eventually they disappear and Perrin can't smell them anymore. They decide then as well, like, they got to find a farm and just rest up for the night, get some rest, get some bandages, get some, you know, help some people. And before they can get to a farm, they hear music coming through the trees and people dancing and having a little feast. And they find who is Rain and his tinkers in the forest for the night. And that's where the chapter ends. Very somber note.
Very heavy one, yeah.
So
heavy
you
losses.
Start with this, you know, hunter of trollocs. It's so cool. It's so cool. Look at them having all the success. But reality eventually kicks in.
It's like the chapter title is almost ironic. Hunter of Trollocs. Hunter of Trollocs? Question mark? Or hunted by Trollocs.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, Joe, you covered most of the stuff that I wanted to talk about there. There's one part where Luke and Gaul sort of have like a little stare down. Like Luke is, he's frowning disapprovingly at Gaul, and then Gaul just stares straight back at him, stony faced. So I was wondering, like, why Luke would be openly frowning at the Aiel. I went so far as to like look if is Gaul also a descendant of Janduin, and does he recognize him from killing him up in the Blight or something like that? Yeah. But I mean, Luke has obviously fought Aiel in the Blight and maybe like had a hard time with them, and is maybe just looking not at Gaul but at the Aiel and frowning at them.
Well, remember, he also grew up in the town where there are those dark friend Aiel. So he knows he's growing up with Aiel, but not the same kind. So maybe just general, he knows Aiel. And
I think he's just looking at him as a threat because he knows Aiel in general. Dark or light side, you know, they are formidable. So he might be just looking at this and going, fuck, okay, how do I get around this obstacle?
Yeah. 3 Aiel is 3 Aiel too many.
Well, just to like strengthen that as well, there's no fear smell on Gaul when he's talking about ambushing the Trollocs and the Fades. So like when he's talking about like we can get them in their sleep, Perrin knows he's talking about the boys because Gaul feels no fear. He can't smell anything on him. There's one part where Aiel is furious with Perrin, and he thinks to himself, I can't blame her for getting her into this mess. Like he thinks she's mad at him for getting her into this mess. And my note there is, He's a beefy boy, not a brainy boy. Like, he's missed the point completely. She's pissed off with him for other reasons. She's fine with being in a mess.
Yeah, look, this is a running theme with these three boys. Rand as well recently now. I know Ivienda who she is and
Misinterpreting
what
the
she
signals.
feels. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, totally. You
Way
know
off the
nothing.
mark.
Yeah. But yeah, that's all I had from that one. That's a pretty straightforward one, just like you said.
Well,
Pretty rough going.
it's obviously Luke that tipped the trollocs off.
Yes.
No doubt about that. But yeah, there's a
he
nice
is.
tender moment when Perrin and Vayle got reunited. Like him whispering in the ear that I've missed you. So
Yes.
But Luke Slayer Isom is such a like contemptible fucker, you know, like it's in a different way from Fane, you know, like Fane is just despicable and deplorable, and Luke is more, I don't want to say conniving because Fane is like super conniving, but his arrogance and his haughtiness and his self-importance just grates you when you know that he's also like a bad guy and he's killing wolves and killing animals just for the sake of killing them, and he's flirting with Aiel and he's leading these Two Rivers people by the nose, you know, you just hate him.
Indeed. Look, that's a common feeling. I think everyone can agree with that.
And this is Perrin's like primary antagonist in the story. Like Slayer is the one that is, but he goes head to head with Perrin and is the one that, you know, pushes Perrin in the direction that Perrin goes into. Like, you know, it forces Perrin to sort of master the world of dreams and like go in there in the flesh eventually. Because in the last book, Perrin can do what Isom is doing or what Slayer is doing. He can walk in and out of the wolf dream in the flesh, which is pretty potent.
considering there's no channeling involved with Perrin at all.
No.
Well, I suppose the same with Isom as well, but with Slayer.
Alana disappearing, Ivan being surprised, then Alana sending Ivan to help or to go and find him just at the time that they're being attacked by trollocs. Where was she disappearing and maybe spying on Luke or something? Is that how she found out? Or I wonder what she's up to. Like, could she have discovered something that made her send Ivan here at this time to come and help Perrin, because during those 2 times that she snuck off, she found out something that could, you know, and she's actually helping Perrin. She's not up to no good.
Maybe.
She's doing some
I
investigations.
think it's framed in a way that is suspicious to specifically raise our suspicions.
Yeah.
You know, mentioning that she's disappearing and no one knows where she goes to, and then Ivan appearing right after the attack.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, okay, this is weird. Coincidence. Okay.
Well, like, we know, maybe in the books, like, if the first time reader, you were meant to believe that maybe she's up to something with the trollocs, you know, like, yeah. But like, now we know it's Luke. I'm wondering what the fuck she's up to. Like, maybe she's discovered something.
Hey, maybe she just has a thing for Deviran boys.
Maybe.
Like,
she definitely does.
And
she definitely does.
Looking out for them, and she wants to.
She said it, yeah.
Bond them, and love them, and hug them, and hold them tight, and pet them, and keep them.
What's that, Elmira? What's the kid from
Elmira? Ilana, Elmira, yeah, same.
All right. Well, then, did you guys pick your favorite moments?
Yes.
Willem, lay it on us.
Elayne getting smashed faced in the pub. not the after bit so much, but the
not the slap faced. You mean smash faced?
Not the slap faced. the smash faced. Just thinking, oh, look at me! How good is this? I'm a commoner in a pub, drinking my 1 glass of wine, listening to Gleeman tales. If mother could only see me now.
And doesn't it happen like after she's bonded Birgitte, like doesn't she go out drinking and Elayne gets drunk because Birgitte is busy like boozing it up in the pubs?
Yes, and she gets drunk
through the bond. Yeah. So yeah, Elayne has a couple episodes with buckets of water, I think.
Indeed.
How about you, Joe?
This is not going to go down well. I tell you right now. When I say favorite moment, it's not because I enjoyed it, but it's because it stuck with me. It made the biggest impact on me. And it's the fact that 27 of these people died. that the story was ticking along with Perrin nicely, how his Tavernness is getting everybody to leave and go to safety. But there has to come a point where reality kicks in and it's not just a fairy tale story anymore, and that there are actual stakes. And thank you, Robert Jordan, for putting in some stakes. Like, not one guy died or they lost Ivon. They lost a lot of young Two Rivers dudes. And like, I'm going to spoil it, but anyway, like when they get back to town, to Emmonsfield eventually, there's a scene where one of the mothers, when they're all coming back, she's going, "Where's my son? What's his name? I can't remember the name, And that as well, like, also stuck with me. Like, her son's not coming back. And Perrin thinks to himself, "Where's your son? He's in a trolloc cook pot. I put him there." Like this stakes and shit
Heavy.
coming down. And this, not my favorite. Yeah, I don't know. It's my favorite because of the stakes. Most poignant, but not because I enjoyed it by any means. Please, don't paint dragon fangs on my doors.
You broke favorite moments. You are a dark friend.
But
favorite moments should be fun,
high.
jovial, and heroic. Not
there's
sad.
no Matt. I didn't have anything to do with Matt today.
Jody, this time you and I are not going to pick the same favorite moment.
All right.
I can say that with certainty. Mine is when Thom and Juilin are quizzing Bayle Domon, and just the two different lines of inquiry that they take. Juilin, going for what are the gangs, what are the undercurrents and the stuff that I need to know about in the city. How do I navigate the dirty streets? And then Thom coming in from the other end, like, who are the nobles that are stating obvious goals, and then how do their actions reflect against those goals? Are they acting in a way contrary to what they're stating, and blah blah blah? Who's friends with who? Like going straight for give me the main artery for Daistamar in the city. And Elayne, like, she notices in that moment, because we're in Elaine's point of view when it's happening, and Elayne is unwittingly seeing Thom's skill at Daistamar, or at least his penchant for it, come to the surface here, which is really cool. My honorable mention is Lan's line about, when can I put down this heavy mountain? When you die.
Yes. Yeah. Also, not a fun moment, but yeah, it's a lot of those.
Something I completely forgot about until we went through the episode now that I would have tagged as an honorable mention is just how badass Matt is with his sword spear.
Shandari.
The fact that he knows how to use it as intended, like as a quarterstaff, which we already know he is like a fucking pro with, just bested 2 probably Blade Master level fighters at the time, and now adding a sword, blade to that equation for some good old stabbing, stabs a fade in the chest, and just Matt coming into his own. All right, so then to our listeners, send in your favorite moments, which Rowan and Kerry have sent in a couple of favorite moments. By far the most feedback we get from the listeners is corrections and elaboration on our sort of misguided attempts at coming up with stuff, which is great. Like we saw in the last couple episodes, like we're getting a lot of contributions from a couple regular supporters and some new ones, which is awesome, guys. Keep that stuff coming. Again, in this episode, we were asking questions that we don't know the answer to, and that's despite Jody reading ahead. So those that know the answers, send them to us, and you can do that by just tweeting us at Blood and Ash Pod, or using any of the hyperlinks to our social media accounts in the description of this episode. Next episode, we are going to cover 4 chapters again. It'll be chapter 41, called Among the Tuatha'an, and going all the way through to the end of chapter 44, called The Breaking Storm. Couldn't tell you what happens in those.
Haven't read it myself.
Guess we're meeting Aram again soon, hey?
Yes.
Sigh. What a tiresome idiot that guy is.
Look, I didn't find him. I've read ahead and I didn't find him tiresome at this point. I suppose that comes later.
Too late. Too late.
Give him time.
I already have a fully formed opinion of him. But I'm sure he'll be just fine in the next episode, and probably for a couple episodes until he becomes an insufferable douchebag. But before that happens, we will enjoy him in next week's episode, and I will see you gentlemen then.
Have a good evening.
Bafana Bafana.